Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to day 2 of the Workplace Wellness Summit, Modernizing Workplace Wellness. My name is Nicole North, and I am joined today by the lovely
Michel Thomson.
That is absolutely correct. We will be leading and guiding you through the first 2 panel discussions today, and we are super excited to be here. This panel this morning is on leadership through the lens of diversity from a broad range, age, gender, personality, amongst others. Again, I'll be moderating today, joined by Michel Thomson and Simone Tai. I'll be leading our opening. Michel will be managing the stage, and Simone will be going through the chat and providing a wonderful summary at the end. I know Sumana wants to come in and give us a little bit of a summary of yesterday's events. And ta-da, our fearless leader, Sumana, is here.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. Workplace Wellness Summit, day 2. We survived day 1. I mean, how incredible was yesterday? It was a bit of a roller coaster. So if you love roller coasters, if you love riding with us, join us today because it's going to be fun. It's going to be lots of ups and downs, but we're going to make it through. We persevered yesterday. We're going to persevere again today. I am Sumana, Jeddy. I am the founder and chair of the Workplace Wellness Summit, and I'm so excited for day 2, a panel discussion on culture, leadership, mental health, and of course, workplace wellness, my very favorite thing. I'm also a panelist. I will be coming back in about 30 minutes. Now, yesterday, in my keynote, I shared 3 wellness shots. And who remembers it? Michel and Nicole, do you remember what I told you on my first day? And if you don't, that's okay. I will remind you.
If I heard you, I would remember it, but I was not there until just before I spoke yesterday.
I'm going to remind you. So repeat after me. Everybody in the comment section as well. You're going to repeat after me. The first wellness shot was wellness comes first. We're going to put our wellness first. That's the wellness shot number 1 from yesterday. The second wellness shot that I gave you was to network and make a friend, make a buddy today. Connect with somebody new that you don't want to connect with. Do that. And the third wellness shot I gave you yesterday was to really be engaged in the comment section. So ask us questions in the comments as the live is going on, and make sure to head over to that toucan space where you can connect with and meet our panel members there and ask them some of those intimate questions that you don't want to ask here on LinkedIn, okay? I'm also going to give you 3 more wellness shots today because why not? Let's get the day started with 3 more. So wellness shot number 4 today is lessons learned from yesterday. So make sure that you are communicating your needs. What I learned from yesterday's sort of roller coaster ride was really just to be open. And we do have a communication confidently speaking panel member and a moderator here from yesterday was Meredith Grundy. She may be on the chat watching. So make sure that when you are going through a leadership challenge or a crisis, communicate your needs. Nobody knows your needs better than you. So when I was kind of rummaging through here yesterday, I really had to pay attention to what I wanted. And I was so happy that there were people here in my network, in my space, physically here, who were able to help me. Wellness shot number 5 is to also step in and help other people. Now, I was so lucky that I had Yohannan here and Petra here, who's sitting right beside me, who asked me, Sumana, what kind of help do you need? And sometimes as a leader, you may not know the help that you need. So sometimes all you need is just to step up and give your leader a little bit of help and support without even them asking. So watch around. Who's treading water? Who is looking a little bit frazzled? Step in and help your people. And that is the power of community that we really need to pay attention to. And the 6th wellness shot, I think I'm going to leave it to you. Put it in the comments and tell me how can you use your EQ and flex your EQ muscle. Put it in that EQ, self-awareness, relationship management, emotional management, all of those components of EQ. I think I learned a lot yesterday, and I'm so happy that you're here today. Have loads of fun. Interact with us in the comments. Leave questions for us. And all the speakers from yesterday, I do have a summary that I will probably use in the closing to give my closing keynote, but have loads and loads of fun. And Michel Thomson, thank you so much for your time to moderate the whole hour. Nicole North, thank you so much again to come back this afternoon to help support us. And Simone Tai, you're going to be back with us again. I'm done speaking. I'll hand over the mic back to our amazing moderators. Thank you.
Thanks, Sumana. Those are some great tips for staying well. We know you're in front of your screen all morning, so it's a great way to stay well and make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So, a couple of things that I wanted to go over were in the chat right now. Let us know some of the takeaways that you got from some of the speakers. Michel, did you have a big aha moment from yesterday's presentations?
Well, I have 4 pages of aha moments. I was taking notes yesterday, and I've noticed that a good chunk of those 4 pages are highlighted. So, yeah, I just each section for me had huge takeaways. I think, in our first kind of leadership and diversity section, the idea of trying to fit a person into a job or the job to the person, and making sure we're meeting individual needs of people in the workplace, and that piece about self-awareness and really being aware of how we're showing up and holding space for other people. And that's sort of the work that I do, and so that was really interesting to me to listen to that. When we talked about workplace wellness and equity, I'm cheating, I'm looking at my notes right now. I think just the idea that work needed to be in harmony with our life, and really to look at it as life and work being a component of that, because there isn't really a separation, and it's one, and we have to look at it in a more holistic perspective. And depending on the season we're in, it will depend on how that looks for us. And then I think culture and inclusion, just inclusiveness leads to belonging and a sense of fitting in, and being part of a larger whole. And the idea of allyship was not one that was new to me, but I really looked at that from a bit of a different perspective, in terms of not being an ally to a community, but being an ally to an individual and a person, which I really loved the idea of that. So I could keep going on and on, but what did you take away from yesterday, Nicole?
Oh, I really
Other than your fantastic delivery, which was like off the charts, I must say.
Stop. Go on. No, stop. No, but you can go on. No. Thank you so much. I did as well. Loved hearing Certrice Gray speak. I have her book Inclusalytics at home. I am working my way through it and love it. So it was great to hear her voice and kind of line it up from the words that I saw. I also love that idea of creating ecosystems at work that support people through those seasons. I think that was the big takeaway from that for me. So again, I hope I'm not able to look at my chat yet because I'm focused, but I hope the audience is sharing some of their takeaways as well. I did want to share some rules of engagement for today in our panel discussion. We want to make this a safe place full of respect and admiration for one another. So, I want us to all be kind and gentle and graceful with all of us, and however we manage today's panel. I also want to say we've got tight timelines. We've got so many panelists and so many questions to ask them. We'll be running a tight ship. So panelists, please keep your responses brief and to the point. One of our colleagues and friends, Monica Zimmerman, always has this great notion of brevity when we're in the panel. So do be mindful of your peers and to make space and hold space for others to share their thoughts as well. So if you know Monica Zimmerman, she's a huge proponent of brevity, and so are Michel and I. So I will not hesitate to gently pop in and interrupt you at any time. There she is.
I was just gonna say Monica's giggling in the chat because she just put in the chat. She typed in brevity, and then you said that at the same time, and I knew it was coming, so I was trying to keep a straight face.
Yes, I love it. So, quick last thing. Today's segment is brought to you by our sponsors, Meredith Grundy Coaching, MLZ Consulting, Ella Pitch, K-Law and Mediation, Whiteboard Consulting, and Jeddy Wellness. And of course, a huge thank you again to the people who are making us look good behind the scenes, Lemon from Heaven Production, Yanika and Matthew. And also, please always know that you can hop over to that Toucan online space. I did it for the first time. It was super, super fun. So make sure you go over there. You can access that through the workplacewellnesssummit.club website. So with that, I am going to pass the baton over to Michel to introduce our esteemed panelists.
Well, thank you so much. I'm just going to very quickly, as Nicole said, introduce each of our panelists, and then we will, ask a question. So first up for me is Debbie Shallock, and Debbie distills thought leadership and deploys content strategies for entrepreneurs and small businesses to carve a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Next up on my list, we have Marion Spears Karr. And Marion is a healthcare executive recruiter with a diverse background in consulting, motivational speaking, leadership, coaching, and individual team development. And if you were with us yesterday, Marion would have spoken. I've heard him speak many times, and he's amazing. And then Monica Zimmerman, who is just fantastic, and I love hearing her speak every time I have the opportunity. Her motto is play, create, innovate. Play, create, innovate. And likes to talk about a variety of topics. And I can't wait to hear what she has to say today. And we also have Nausheen Samutally, and she is a certified DISC behavioral analysis consultant who helps leaders build strong teams and transformations. So with that, the question that we have today for our panelists is, as it relates to your area of expertise, what is the one thing that leaders must do to manage diversity in the workplace? Nausheen, do you want to start us off?
Absolutely. Hey, everyone. It's great to be here. Can you hear me, Michelle? I just want to make sure you can hear me fine. Excellent. Okay. So what must leaders do to embrace diversity in the workplace? I think it starts with acknowledging first that we are all human beings and that we are all different. And then lead with listening and understanding. I think that's the foundation of leading with diversity and understanding and embracing it. If leaders first understand that the people around them are human, then they take the time to understand what kind of human beings they are, how do they resonate, how do they think, then it allows them to say, oh, for that work, I can lean on that person. But I know that person is not good at this thing or doesn't come naturally to them, but I could pair them with somebody else so they can now complement each other. I think that for me is the foundation to embrace diversity.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Marion. Oh, we can't hear you, Marion. Not yet. Maybe what I can do you want me to move on to somebody else and I'll let you? I know, we've all had technical issues. We're just going with the flow this morning. Monica, love to hear from you.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah,
we got you.
Woo! Okay. So yes, well, first of all, we've done number one. So we've looked at empathy, kindness, compassion. How can we be a better leader? Okay, that's great. Let's get to number two, which is actually be part of the plan versus having someone else do it. Be part of the plan from A to B. A lot of times it doesn't reach the C-suite level. It gets to the mid or the bottom of the mid level, and then it fizzles out. There's no support in DEI agents or belonging agents or ERG folks that lead the team. You have to be part of the process. There's enough smoke and mirrors. That's been played. Clearly, we've seen the last century of smoke and mirrors, and how's that worked out? So, step two, what can you do as a leader? How can you implement change? There's many folks that know what they're doing out there in the DEI space. So Treese is one. I have some connections as well. I mean, just make a plan and be a part of the plan, not separate from the plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Those are just always good nuggets that you share with us. Thank you so much. Ora, how about we hear from you? I would love to hear what you think about this.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Awesome. One of the things that is important in leadership is to ensure that we have a growing mindset and also that we understand there are different thinking styles in the workplace. When we understand that, diversity happens organically and it's easier for everybody in the organization because we know that we don't have the last answer, that we can always collaborate with each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love that the growth mindset. Marion, how are you doing? Are you ready to join us?
No, we still can't hear you.
Okay, move on. Okay. Debbie, I would love to hear from you.
Great. Hello. Can you hear me? Okay, everybody's doing that sound check just to make sure. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. And actually, I'm going to share maybe a bit of a different approach because I have a marketing and branding background. So 4 quick steps. First would be a SWOT. So look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats within the DEI space. Second would be to make sure there's someone leading the effort, someone that is held accountable, who can take charge and report outcomes and progress. Third, as Monica said, make sure you're working through the whole funnel of the organization. So top level leadership, absolutely. Middle level, but boots on the ground are so important to make sure that their voices are heard. And then lastly, again, another marketing tip, have great communication. So employ blogs, emails, intranet, social media. Make sure as you're going through the process, people are aware of what you're doing, why you're doing it. You don't have to have the plan figured out. Just keep them apprised of the process.
Love those.
Great comments. Yeah, I love those. Thank you so much. I don't want to put any pressure on you, Marion, but I so want to hear from you. I'm not sure if you were able to sort it out or not. No. Oh. Our gremlins from yesterday are continuing to follow us in today. Okay. I noticed that we've brought Simone to the stage. Simone, did you just want to say hello to everyone?
No, we can't hear you. So if you can, I know for me, it kind of, when I go into Restream, it switches my sound settings. So if you click the 3 dots and then go to settings, you might be able to make sure that it's capturing the right mic. I hope that helps, but maybe Lemon from Heaven can help Marion and Simone sort out those sound issues.
I did also notice this morning, just very quickly, that if you actually go up into the URL bar that you're streaming this in right now, you'll see probably a little microphone or a little camera symbol. If you click on that, it will allow access to either your microphone or your camera. So that could have a little X through it. Those little gremlins are there, and you can get rid of those just by going right up into the URL. So I don't know if that's helpful.
No. Sorry, Marion.
Well, Nicole, did you want to, add any comments to that? I know we have another question that we can move on to. I'm just doing a time check.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, a couple things that struck out to me was this idea of consistent communication, right? This idea of how do we, there's a stat that I use when I've been teaching lately that's something like organizations that are highly effective at communicating their vision, their strategy, all of those things, including how they manage diversity, is that they communicate 22% more about their vision and their strategy than other organizations. And so I think that's pretty powerful. Someone who's good at math, right? What's 22% of your 8-hour day? So that means 22%, whatever that is, let's say it's 20 minutes. You need to be communicating 22 minutes more about how you want to execute your leadership, your diversity strategies, how you want to have leaders that have workplace wellness strategies and cultures in place. So I think that's pretty fascinating and kind of a thread I heard throughout that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. It's funny that you thought of that quote, because as I was hearing everyone speak and I was taking some notes about, treating people like human beings and being part of the plan with a growth mindset, and then looking at your strengths and areas for improvement and opportunities and threats, it made me think of a quote that I heard years and years ago that's really stuck with me. And I think it's from Gunter and Whitaker, that says that the culture of an organization is founded by the worst behavior it's willing to tolerate. And I just really thought about this, but from a strength perspective, to say when we're setting these things in place, we're really setting the bar pretty high in terms of the expectation and the culture and inclusivity and diversity that we're expecting in the workplace. So I appreciate that another quote came to mind for you as well.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So how are we doing for time? Do we have time for one more question?
Absolutely.
All right. So the other question that we have for our panelists is, what is a challenge that leaders face in the workplace as it relates to diversity? So Monica, why don't you start us off?
Okay, let's go. Self-awareness. I'm not racist. I don't have any bias. I don't see color. Those are not the answers we're looking for. And until we look at ourselves, great leadership, and Marion had a great post. Can't remember, I'm sorry, Marion, but you do such great work on LinkedIn. And I appreciate where you come from, 100%. And you said, and I was like, it reflected back to me, leadership is an inside job. If you're not willing to do some of the work yourself, why are you going to ask someone else to do the work, to carry the load that you need to carry? You have to look at yourself and check yourself. And if you're coming from a place of white privilege, education, class, across the board, that has to be addressed. There are biases. Okay, well, let's look at them in a kind and curious way. It's not about pointing fingers like, well, how can we be better and raise everybody up? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I love that, with the kind and curious way. I've worked with a lot of First Nations communities here in British Columbia, and I know that that's a stronghold, is that, you're approaching every situation with humility, and no question is ever wrong when it's done from a place of humility. So, Nausheen, would you like to speak to this? I'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. I want to echo back what Monica was saying and add to that. So that self-awareness piece is very important, understanding who they are and how they're coming across. And the other piece is team awareness. So they understand how others are wired. And when it comes to diversity, how they are wired to understand, how they are wired to communicate, how they want to be communicated to, but also what motivates the people around them. Very often we speak in a way that resonates for us, right? I think we've all heard about that golden rule of communication that says, treat others as you would like to be treated. Who agrees with that? A lot of people have, right? But let's face it, when we look at the people around us, are they like us? They're different, right? They're wired differently. They grew up from different environments, different cultures. And so the way they want to be communicated to is different as well. So when we try to communicate, and leaders try to communicate in a way that resonates with them, and it feels great because they put a lot of effort in that, and it doesn't resonate with the team, that's a big challenge. So I want to introduce here the platinum rule of communication, and that is treat others as they would like to be treated. From a communication perspective, how does your team and the people in your team want to be communicated to? Who are the people that resonate with more data and figures? Who are the people who are what I call the people? They need to have a dialogue. Who are the people that don't have time for the fluff? They just need you to get to the point. And who are the people who need a little bit more context? Not too much, but they need to know what is their role in the project and the goal that they're driving towards. When they get that challenge that they're facing in communication can be solved. Thank you.
So much goodness in that. Thank you so much. Debbie, I would love to hear from you.
Thank you. I would say probably my top recommendation would be to come with an open mind, get rid of preconceptions. Don't come into the effort of, oh, this is what I think it's going to be, or this is what it's looked like before. Having an open mind and a fresh approach allows you to hear from others in a different way. It allows you to value difference instead of being defensive. and hopefully allow you to be vulnerable and humble as you go through the process. It doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to have commitment, and again, like I said, just an openness and a willingness to learn about the value of difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love that it doesn't have to be perfect, but there has to be a commitment. I think some of our, well, maybe a lot of us, I don't know, I don't want to speak for everyone else. We can get caught up in the perfectionism and wanting to do things perfect, or being afraid to say something wrong or do something wrong. And I love that the commitment needs to be there. So thank you so much for that. Laura, I would love to hear from you.
Thank you. I think great insights from all panelists here. I'm so honored to be here with all of you. One of the things that came to mind as they were going and talking about it is, one is ensure that anything that we are doing is tied with the strategic plan. This is very important because then the organization can use those foundations and continue to move forward. When things are not tied to the strategic plans, then it kind of becomes the flavor of the month. And diversity is something that needs to be tied to the strategy. That's one thing. And the second thing I wanted to add to what my fellow panelists have said here is that ensure that you can place yourself from a learnability perspective. Diversity is not something that we can do and it's like a check mark, that like a report. It's just consistent and it will evolve with time. So allow time to embrace it and to enjoy your journey in the process. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, again, I think we're hearing a theme of empathy and humility to self sometimes in that knowledge and becoming and learning how to lead from the inside out is really giving yourself the grace to make those mistakes from time to time. So I think that we have gone through our panels. Unfortunately, I see that Marion wasn't able to come back and join us.
Marion's got his finger up, so I think that might be he's going to try again.
Okay. Marion, I'm so sorry. I had the chat box up and it covered your beautiful presence there. So I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to keep you out.
I love it. Marion's saying switch point of reference. Oh, I love it. It's like a Love Actually. Expand your knowledge of diversity types. I feel like I'm right in the script of Love Actually. This is incredible. Yeah. Marion, your creativity here is mind-bending.
I love it. This is the epitome of going with the flow.
Look past the obvious, right? Go beyond those things that come right to us. Go deeper, dig, be curious. I love that. That was a little bit of a theme that I caught through everyone, was this idea of, there's a quote that I often use, and that's, kindness and curiosity leave no room for anger and resentment. And I think as we lead conversations about wellness, and as we lead people of diverse backgrounds and experiences and wellness scenarios, that we need to do it with kindness and curiosity, so that we don't make our own assumptions about how they need to be communicated to. And we use that, Nausheen, I'm right on the same page with you, communicating with people the way they want to receive it, in whatever way that is. I'll pass it back over to you, Michel.
Thank you. Yeah, lots of good comments coming in. I can see that, Jared commented pause and reflect. And Jenn Hensel is saying that burnout is real, and there's things, they're just coming in so quickly, to gain new perspectives from collective minds of experts. There's just so many good things coming in. So thank you so much for engaging in the chat and participating with us. So
I have one more question, Michel.
Absolutely.
If that's okay. And my question is, what's the one tactical thing organizations need to do in order to actively lead workplace wellness in a diverse workplace, right? What's the one tactical thing? So not the theoretical thing, but like have the meeting, write the memos, make the calls, whatever that might be. What is the actual on the ground strategy that you would tell anyone to do right now to make things move forward? Monica, you want to start us off?
Absolutely. I'm taking notes as we speak. So, we can talk about the general stuff. Let's, like you said, tactical, let's get specific. I worked for the company last week, and they had 500 employees and 2 people for mental health. I'm like, so you have 2 people one person for 250 of your group, and another person for the other half of the 250 of your staff of the 10 stores. I was shocked, beyond shocked. That's an underserved community. Have the staff reach out. There's plenty of DEI agents out there, and communities and companies and organizations that want to help you move to the next level. So reach out, find those people, get your staff, get your team, tactical team in each section so you're covered. Have a DEI leadership team, have a mental wellness and awareness team, but have a team. One person can't serve everybody or the whole community of your establishment. So get your teams in place. Maybe the third team is creating a different pipeline for diversity in your teams. Instead of looking like this for a tech IT person, maybe you want to look at this. Let's open our channels of where we find talent, because there's top talent everywhere.
I love that. Staff up and get some dedicated coverage.
Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. I don't remember what order you were going in, Michel. I'll just go randomly. Let's go,
Yeah.
Debbie. I'll go in the order that I see them. Debbie, what's your one tactical tip for leaders to embrace diversity in the context of wellness?
Real simple. Pick a goal, write it down, make it public, hold yourself accountable, and ask your team to make sure they're holding you accountable as well.
I love it. That old adage of tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Love it. Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome.
Ora, what's your
Awesome.
one on the ground tip for leading teams through wellness and through that lens of diversity?
Awesome. This applies pretty much to everything, like action. So act upon what you are gonna do, and like actions talk louder than words. So communication is important, but the team needs to see action happening as you are progressing, and also provide updates in regards of how are we doing. That is great, because then what happens is if it's a delay or something, the team will know exactly what is happening. I think that is very important. A lot of organizations create great initiatives, communicate great initiatives, but lacking the action side of things. Thank you.
Beautiful. Actions are louder than words. I try and tell my kids that all the time. I don't know how often they listen. Nausheen.
Yes, so for me, it's empowering the mid-level managers, and because companies need ears in the workforce, right? They need to understand, what does wellness mean for them. What are they looking for exactly? Once they have that, then they can put a plan in place and act on it. But in order to have concrete information, vulnerable information that are transparent from the employees, we need to empower that mid-level managers, who are the people that are really in direct contact with the majority of the people in a company. And a lot of companies don't empower this level of this level of managers in the company, and I think that's a gap that we need to bridge. A paper published by Microsoft said that managers feel wedged between leadership and employee expectation. So there's leadership that wants something, there are employees that want something, and then there's a gap in between on how to translate that. So they need to be empowered to be able to bring the message up there, so then they can have a real plan that actually resonates with the people.
Yeah, if I'm hearing you correct, it's this idea of you actually give power to middle managers to execute wellness strategies or make individual plans for individuals, and not just only follow that corporate guideline.
So 2 things: listen, and then be able to contribute to the plan.
Beautiful, beautiful. Marion, do you have a Love Actually acronym for us? I love it. Ask questions of everyone, right? Continuing along that curiosity line. Thanks, Marion. Michel, final thoughts before we pass it on to Simone to wrap up this panel and give us her thoughts.
Well, my head is just like, it's so heavy because I'm getting so much information put into it in such a short period of time. Just really grateful to be here and to be sharing the stage with so many amazing thought leaders and who are really helping to pave the way to create healthy workplaces, healthier workplaces, and to help those of us and everybody who's watching today, be able to do the deep dive and understand how and why we are viewing the world and the perspectives that we have based on experience, to be kind to ourselves and show empathy, but also to figure out how to navigate together a path forward that creates just really healthy workplaces, not just physically, but obviously psychologically healthy workplaces. So I don't want to show favoritism to anyone because everybody's just landed so many nuggets, and I appreciate you being here. And I've got so many notes that I can't wait to go through and add to more a little bit. So interested to hear what you and Simone will have to say.
Yeah, Simone, but can we hear you? No. Oh, no, don't be sorry. We could lip read. So I will try and wrap up some of the, for me, I'm always about tactics, right? We talk about big picture leadership strategies and things that we use in order to lead workplace wellness strategies through that diversity lens. But for me, sometimes it's the simplest thing is the thing that people will do. Right. So if you can tactically, to Monica's point, staff up, get dedicated folks working on pieces for workplace wellness and mental health, not just off the side of your desk. Simone, you're super busy working 9 to 5. So can you also just add managing the entire workplace wellness strategy, for the whole team, for all 500 people also? Isn't a fair thing to ask of that one person, nor is it fair for the recipients because they're not getting the dedicated approach. I love the idea of picking a goal and sticking to it, actually committing to something, creating actions on it, and then reporting back what you did. Sometimes we get so involved in the interior of it, we're not able to actually report back what we did and what we could accomplish and what we could improve. I love that piece about actions being louder than words, that really showing what we're doing, not only talking the talk. And then lastly, really empowering that middle level management team. So actually giving them thresholds to operate within instead of just having to be the meat in a hamburger of workplace wellness, right? Just being stuck in the middle, being forced from the top end of what they need to do, but yet also hearing pressures. It's why I often say management is by far the hardest role you can ever be in, that middle management role, because you are balancing those two conflating issues. Michel, final thoughts. We've got 1 minute before we're done. Anything final to add before we move to our next panel discussion?
No, I'm just really excited to continue on with today and that everybody's joining us. I want to really thank our panelists for coming and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge with us. And as I said earlier, it was just a real pleasure to share this space with you. So thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much to our audience who, as much as when I was able to find the chat on my screen again, there is some amazing notes here from Tamika Brown, from Philippe Cofino, tons of gems there. So we will definitely be sure to add those into our conversation. There you go. There's some awesome chats. Thanks for the creativity and your patience for those tech issues that they just love to come near us. Marion Spears is the GOAT.
Yeah, I just wanted to be able to make sure that Simone has a voice. I did just notice a message that she had sent to say that she thinks that the key is the individual attention to things and people, to be present and open-minded, to ditch old ideas so you can learn new ways from asking all for their views. So that was, I think, a great way to wrap things up.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I think, team, we're ready to thank you, panelists. And now we've got Michel starting our next section, kind of introducing our next section and giving a restart for anyone that's joining, any audience members that are joining. So I'll pass that baton over to you, Michel.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to remind everybody to head over to Toucan and make sure that you're engaging there, because all of our panelists will be heading over that way. So if you want to speak to them in a smaller venue or in their groups, that you'll be able to do that over there. So please make sure that you are heading over to the Toucan party and engaging with our speakers and each other. So our next panel discussion is for workplace wellness and equity. We're also going to hear from 5 panelists, and Nicole is going to introduce those people to you, to all of us shortly. And I think just one of the things that, you know, we sort of talked about, Nicole, and of course, Simone, if you can type it in, or if you can do what Marion did even, I'd be interested to hear from you. What's one thing that you'd like to learn more about in the terms of workplace wellness and equity?
Yeah, well, there's always this tension for me of that notion between fairness and equity, and that idea of, do we treat everyone the same, or do we have to level set that, right? That idea of the platinum rule, where we're meeting people where they are at. And I think as a manager myself, that was always a challenge. How do you do that equitably and fairly? I always found that I was kind of in that hamburger sandwich of those two things. So I'm really excited to understand what managing workplace wellness with equity means to our esteemed panel members.
I agree. I've always had this difficult idea of separating fairness from being nice, and that they're very different. And to be nice doesn't mean you're always being fair. And so and it's much more complex than that, obviously. But those are two things that I've really struggled with in my own practice and helping to support other people, is this balance between fair and nice. So again, I'm also very curious to hear what our panel speakers have to say today. So with that, I will turn it over to you to do the introductions.
Absolutely. So we've got a little more time here. I think that we can chat a little bit. I was just going to mention that we've got a little bit of. There's always this amazing meme that has been available that says, fairness is if everyone's kind of looking over a fence and someone is tall, that they're all standing on the ground and that they're all given the same thing. And equity is the idea that the smaller people are actually given a space to lift up, so that they all reach the same level at the same time. So if someone in the chat, I'm sure, can share maybe a link or something to that image, because I think that's an incredibly powerful image of the notion between fairness and equity. And I think that, to our point, that's how that's going to be so interesting for us today. So I want to know from the tech team whether we're able to slowly bring in all of our panel members for the next section. There we go. People are joining us. So let's see who we've got here. I have Hannah Austin, who helps employees and managers to find a balance between their personal and professional lives, leading a movement away from corporate hustle culture. Good morning, Hannah. We have Grant Gurewitz, a digital marketing leader who's focused on what individuals can do to work without burnout and how organizations can create an anti-burnout culture. That speaks to me, Grant. Anti-burnout culture speaks to me.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Let's do it. We are also joined by our Workplace Wellness Summit founder and chair, Sumana Jeddy, who focuses her, as I always call it, delightful, bubbly, energetic personality and pairs you with a knock it dead, evidence-based workplace wellness strategic consulting. We've got Anna Mazig, who supports businesses and educational institutions in prioritizing physical and psychological safety with a focus on compliance, threat assessment, and DEI. And last but absolutely not least, we've got Joshua Graner, who began his career in the US military, now helps healthcare organizations build resilient teams and create workplaces where people can thrive. So welcome, panel members.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello, hello. So just a little reminder on rules of engagement. I think I've got about 3 questions lined up for the panel. So please do keep your answers brief so that we can make sure that we can hear from all of your wonderful voices. Simone, if you can keep an eye on that chat for me, that would be fantastic. And you can wave your hands frantically if there's something I really need to look at in the chat and address. That'll be our signal, or you can do the now famous Marion Spears Karr Love Actually move if you need to, just put up a sign, yell at me to stop. And with that, I think I would like to get right into it. My first question is the simple one. What does managing workplace wellness with equity mean to you? So let's start. I'm going to just go in order of who I see. Joshua, good morning and welcome. What does managing workplace wellness with equity mean to you?
Yeah, the talk that I gave yesterday was on the importance of creating psychological safety within our teams and organizations. And I think that psychological safety is it's the foundation, it's the cornerstone that allows for equity to take place. And in the discussion that I went yesterday, that I went into, that I really believe that a practical approach that we can use to create that foundation of psychological safety is curiosity. So if I can cultivate the capacity for curiosity as a leader or as an employee, what that does is it sets the foundation internally. I went into the neurology of it a little bit yesterday, but it sets the neurological foundation so that we can actually create an equitable space where we can all meet and contribute and be as authentic, bring our authenticity and all of our strengths and powers and also our foibles to the table in a way that feels safe to us and that feels good.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, Joshua. It makes me think of when we get tense, nervous, we activate that amygdala part of our brain, that the sheer notion of asking questions moves us into that prefrontal cortex, allows us to think more clearly. I think I read something not too long ago that said when your amygdala is activated, so when you're stressed, I imagine when you're burnt out, when you're reacting to things in a certain way, you're actually losing the equivalent of 20 IQ points. I don't know about you guys. I do not have that to spare. Not even 1 IQ point can I spare at this current juncture in my life. So I love when you brought that neuroscience into that. So cultivating curiosity. I love that. Anna, good morning and welcome. What does managing workplace wellness with equity mean to you?
Oh, I hope her audio is working.
Oh, I'm not sure, Anna, if we can hear you. We will, if you can check your audio settings using the 3 dots at the bottom, or that great tip from, I believe it was Michel, to click the camera in your URL link and see if you can adjust that. I will come back to you, I promise. Okay, Hannah, and feel free to just cough violently throughout. If I hear someone cough violently, I will know that your sound is working again. Hannah, good morning. It's such a pleasure to see you. How are you thinking about this idea of managing workplace wellness with equity?
Well, good morning, Nicole, and thank you so much for inviting us to be a panelist today. I am so excited to speak about this topic and super energized to speak about this topic. Really, it's around balancing kind of that personal, professional obligation and avoiding conflict, and instead creating a symbiotic relationship. So I'm all about creating win-wins in the team, right? So having the team start a Monday or start a Friday morning meeting with, how did you feel that work-life integration went for you this week, with the goal of being a synergetic team? So we know that some people at work have kids, some people don't. Some people have new puppies or pets, those pandemic puppies, but really it's around, what does work-life integration mean for each individual purpose, and designing it and defining it as a team, and talking about how people are in the morning or how people are in the afternoon. Are they more productive? When do they need their rest periods? And coming together as a team collectively and creating a team plan so everybody knows that Grant's better in the morning, Michel struggles maybe in the mid-afternoon, she gets the slumps, she needs a coffee. Really, it's around integrating that team perspective and creating synergy.
Love the idea of co-creating that wellness plan, right? To have everyone involved and engaged, and that helps create equity as everyone's voices have been heard. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Hannah. Grant, good morning and welcome. What does it mean to manage workplace wellness with equity?
Good morning, and thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. And actually, what Hannah just said, I think, tees up what I was going to talk about really well. So thank you, Hannah, for teeing me up perfectly. You know, it's very interesting. So in the early days of the pandemic, I was talking with a people leader, and she said something that stuck with me for a while here, which is this idea of workplace norms and cultural norms that are explicit are very kind. Workplace norms that are implicit and you have to figure out how to navigate is unkind. So I think this idea of how do you codify and really, as Hannah was saying, kind of co-create what the workplace norms are, document it, share it out, make it a known thing, so everyone on the team is able to operate from the same rule book or the playbook, essentially, is a great way, I think, to operate and bring in wellness. And things like, how is success measured? Is it based on the outcomes you're producing? Or is it based on how long the green light is on next to your name on Slack or something like that? How, like, who's getting rewarded and put up on a pedestal for the type of work that they're doing? Do you have the ability to take a break in the middle of the day? Do you have the ability to recharge after you've been sprinting for a couple weeks on a big project? All of these sorts of things that I actually led a work group at my company with our department of 200 people to really co-create that together and have the buy-in and support from our leadership team. So it's been hugely important, and 85% of our department said that it was crucial for their desire to retain and stay on the team. So it's really, really important work that we're able to co-create together.
Really, really powerful. Thank you, Grant. That idea of establishing and documenting ground rules and processes and procedures and performance metrics, instead of just talking about wellness ethereally, we should be well, take care of yourself, meditate, right? It's actually saying, what does it mean to work on your wellness, and what rules do we have in place? What is allowed and what isn't allowed? I think that structure is one of the fundamental foundational elements of high performing teams. So I think that's a brilliant one. Sumana.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hello there.
I was trying to multitask and DM people. So I think, I'm sorry, before I will answer your question, Nicole, wonderful question. I love this question. And Anna, I just want to make sure that your mic is working. Just say hello. I'm so excited to hear from you as a panelist. So just say, hey, say something. Hey, mic check, 1, 2. Not yet?
No.
There's a little, so on your Zoom screen here on Restream, there's a little settings button on the bottom. So there's the mic button, camera button, and on the far right, there's a gear for settings. If you click that and make sure that the audio input and output is selected to whatever it is that you're using, that sometimes does the trick. And sometimes if you unplug and put it back in, it does the trick. And the third option would just be to leave the live stream and come back. We want to hear from you. So I really hope that we can get that audio working. And anybody else here in the room, can everybody else have their audio working? Can anyone just say 1, 2? Everyone's good?
Yeah, everyone.
Hello.
Yes. Okay, good. And except for Simone. Simone's still struggling. Okay, that's good. your question, Nicole, was what does equity mean for me in workplace wellness? So for me, when I was thinking about the summit as well, it's this idea of how do we really provide access to care and bring that financial wellness piece in to the individuals that may be suffering from burnout or even just in corporate wellness. Now, from a healthcare perspective, because I do come from public health, the burden of our healthcare costs are primarily in the chronic disease management, and all of these wellness perks that organizations are giving, we need to kind of redefine what those wellness perks mean so that the equity piece, so we can sit together and talk about that equity piece, because I may not need a gym membership because I go to the gym every day. I don't want that gym membership from you. I'm happy to pay that. Perhaps what I need from the organization are some other resources and other wellness perks that allow me to take care of my chronic anxiety, to take care of, my hypertension if I have one, or my diabetes that I have one. That, I think, is one of the biggest problems now. Don't tell me to put on my Apple Watch and go for a walk and do 1,000 steps. I already know how to do that. Give me something else. Give me something that matters to me, and give me the financial benefits that I need so that this service now is across the board from the population health perspective. We want this to be available to everybody, and all of our health problems are very unique. So we really need to redefine those wellness perks. That's what it means for me. Happy to hear from the panel members, especially from Anna and anybody else. I'm passing the mic back to the moderators. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna, any luck? No luck. I'm so sorry, Anna. Maybe try hopping off and on again, and we can catch you on the second question. Again, I know I sound a little bit like a broken record, but these kinds of questions are really important for me to get us out of the theory and the notions of kind of big leadership that we can all say. We want to hold people accountable. We want to do this. We want to do this. What's that one tactical thing leaders can do right now? Now, Simone, I see you holding up a note. Let's see. Lemon from Heaven, can you highlight? There we go. Taya says, once burnout, we shut down to new experiences and approaches. Thank you. Thank you for adding that. Thanks. And thanks for using the Marion Spears Karr method of communication. So appreciate that. So my question is, what's the one tactical thing that we need to do right away? What is one action, one financial investment, one thing we can do right away to help meet teams where they are at? Joshua, why don't you start us off?
Okay, yeah, this is a really poignant question. And it's something I've thought a lot about, because one of the things that I do is I help organizations, especially healthcare organizations, build out wellness and resilience programs for their employees. And I would say in the beginning, when I first started doing this, I naively felt that if I just put together a really clever program that had all the components and all the, the stretching and the mindfulness and the nutrition and all this stuff that if I built it, they will come. And I realized really quickly that, even though organizations were paying me a lot of money to build these programs, I wasn't doing them a very good service because I wasn't talking to the employees and figuring out what they needed. So what I've done is I've gone back and I take a big step back and I start the build process with a question. And it's actually 45 questions, and it's a process that I've created called Thrive Metrics. And it's basically, it's a resilience needs assessment. And the term that I came up with is don't build your resilience programs from the top down without doing a bottom up assessment. So basically, everybody, I can't do every person in the organization, but the vast majority of people, at least 25 to 30%, through a qualitative outcomes assessment process plus candid interviews. So I think that's the long and short of it is talk to the people, figure out what they believe they need in a wellness program, and don't pretend just because you've got a degree, we have a degree in something related to healthcare, that we know what people need.
Spectacular. And, for those that know me, know my passion for psychometric assessments and any type of assessment that gives you data and information to make pointed decisions about how we respond to this. I've used a very basic resilience assessment. So Josh, I would love to find out what you use and how you do that, to kind of identify what are the key areas in our resilience that are making it difficult for us to manage change, make it difficult for us to manage increased volumes of work. And then we can isolate our actions to improving that area, whether it's people's organization skills, whether it's people's social interactivity, whether it's their self-efficacy. So I love that those dimensions of resilience can help guide us to targeted learning instead of forcing people to learn about change and resilience and those things. So thank you, Joshua. Sumana.
Hi. One takeaway that I think organizations can implement right away is to incorporate wellness and learning development into their program, into their structure. Nicole, can I get an amen to that? Let's clap away. I think
Hallelujah.
we talk about learning and development. L&D is something that we always talk about. How about W, L, and D? Let's put wellness in the first kind of prefix of it, and let's talk about wellness and give employees an opportunity to learn. There's so much learning that needs to happen. And there's even today when I talk to people about, hey, do you know what burnout actually means? And there's a lot of heads that go like this. And there's some people who are just like, I think so. I think I'm burned out. I don't really know what it means. So organizations, pay attention to your culture and bring people in to teach them. Bring people like Joshua in to teach. Bring people like Grant in, who are passionate individuals who have been through the journey, so they have that lived experience, but they're bringing in the neuroscience, they're bringing in the learning pieces and the research to share with you, so you can incorporate and enhance and make valuable decisions for your corporate culture and for your employee health and wellness. That's what's important. We all have to work, and we don't want to be sick when we're working. Thank you so much.
WLND is like the greatest mic drop. Is that like, I think that's amazing. Lemon from Heaven, can you highlight Simone so I can read her love note to me? Anna says, leaders create new policies that support wellness. Example, have a minimum PTO, even if unlimited PTOs are available. That's a great tactical strategy. Thank you so much, Anna, for sharing that, and Simone for love actualing it. Love it. Hannah, let's go to you.
Hi, yes. So being in the healthcare landscape for 2 decades and working at one of the biggest healthcare organizations in the world, we did workplace wellness really well in a variety of departments. The biggest challenge was connecting the DEIB team, the HR team, the EAP team. We were functioning a lot in silos. So to me, tactically across an organization and creating that synergy, you need to bring all of those departments together for a shared vision. And I think we need to change that work-life balance to work-life integration, which means you need to change the mindset of the overall organization. Then the policies need to follow along. I also think it's really important in not just talking about workplace wellness, workplace integration. One of the things that my team did was I asked them to take pictures or images of what workplace integration or workplace wellness looked like or felt like for them. And I think a lot of people can't articulate it vocally, or they don't understand what burnout means from a definition standpoint, but they know how it feels. And so it's really around creating that visual space that not only introverts and extroverts can participate in. It is a collective environment and a collective decision. And then and only then can synergy occur and policies and workflows can follow.
I love that kind of idea of visioning what workplace wellness looks like, right? It looks like this with your eyeballs. It sounds like this if you're to hear someone talking to you, and it feels like this when someone treats me with a lens of equity and wellness in what I do. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Hannah. And last but not least, Grant.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I feel like, and we're touching on this a lot through the answers here. Like, my biggest thing right now is that a lot of workplace wellness programs go to the kind of like the benefits side of things, like Sumana was talking about. Like, here's a gym membership, here's like a bunch of things that we're giving you to help make you well, but that puts all of the onus on the individual, which is kind of a really unfair place for organizations who are the ones who are dumping a lot of work on the individual to basically remove themselves from being of issue here from the leadership level. So I feel like that's where the conversation is turning, which is this idea of how do you actually create a culture of well-being or a culture of wellness, essentially, which is what a lot of you all have been touching on. So the other related conversation to this is, as everything has changed in the last 2 years, right? The great fill in the blank with starting with an R, whether it's resignation, reshuffling, reprioritization, whatever your headline of the week is for that. Every individual has changed, and their priorities and what matters to them in their life has changed. So it is beyond critical that employers and leaders be able to go to each individual and really understand them and how they've changed in the last couple of years and what drives them. And for me, I work in the tech industry, which for many years has been work as many hours as you can, take on all the things, be always on. But for me personally, and I know a lot of my peers, I've changed completely in the way that I approach that, since I don't want to be always on, and I don't want to find success that way. So really understanding how each individual is defining success for themselves and what they want work to mean for them in their lives is where leaders and I think organizations need to be able to go to make sure that they're getting the best out of their people, and able to have a really healthy organization going forward.
Spectacular. Thank you so much, Grant. Okay, I have 3 minutes, and I've been summarizing as I go. So I'm going rogue, Michel.
Perfect. I've been frantically writing notes as well because there's just so much goodness in this.
So my final go rogue moment before we leave is, what is your one word response to managing the hybrid return to work, remote working situation? It's just a one word, because we don't have much time and I want Michel to use all those notes she's been taking. So what's your one word response to how we're supposed to manage remote, hybrid, and return to work office policies equitably?
Listen.
Love it. Popcorn
Flexibility.
style. Listen, flexibility.
Opportunity.
Opportunity.
Sumana stole mine with listen, so I'm trying to think of
Simone, intentional.
We're in sync, Grant. We're in sync.
Yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And I'm assuming Anna's in the chat with her one word. Let me check. Sorry.
Flexibility.
Flexibility. Thank you. Thank you. Michel, final thoughts before we close off this panel discussion. Let me say thank you to our panel members, Anna, Joshua, Grant, Sumana, and Hannah. What a spectacular discussion.
Yeah,
So
what
much.
a great conversation. So many nuggets. I think we kind of, some of the common themes I heard was one-on-one communication, psychological safety is the foundation, being curious. And really, I think the piece that came out over and over and over again is that people need to see employees not as team members, but as individuals who each come with individual needs and wants. And it's great to look at, team work, but you need to look at the people within those teams because their needs are all going to be different. And ask questions so that you learn from people and make sure that what you're offering is what they want and not what you feel good about offering as an employer, as a leader. I hear this a lot in the work that I do around let's think outside the box. And I really question me, why does there even need to be a box? Why are you creating a box? Get rid of the box. You can create your own framework. And that framework should look like what your people need. And it's not about, like I said, feeling good about what we offer. It's really about making sure that people are using the services that you are offering, and how can you go about doing that, and encouraging people to use your wellness programs and to engage in the wellness different processes that you have in your organization, like walking meetings or flexing out time. You know, as I said before, I worked for an organization where it was really founded in First Nations culture. And every Monday morning we would have a drumming circle where we would all, the entire organization, all 700 employees in multitudes of locations, every Monday at 9 o'clock, we would have a drumming circle. And that was one of the most powerful experiences that I will ever have. And I think that, you know, it's just one of those things that you know, we can do so many different things.
Flexibility.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm getting
Michel,
feedback. I don't know what's going on, but I'll wrap it up there.
Watching the stream from somewhere else, maybe. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
panelists. Thank you, sponsors. Head over to Toucan, where you can chat with folks at any time. Sumana, anything to add before we move to our next segment?
No, thank you so much, panel members. I know Anna's on the culture and inclusion panel, so hang around. Everybody else, thank you for your time. We're going to have to move a few people out of the live stream and bring new people in. This concludes the second segment of the conference. We're going to do workplace wellness and inclusion another 30 minutes, and then you now have the opportunity to head over to Toucan, connect with Anna, and connect with Hannah and Grant, and who else was there? Simone, if she's gonna leave. Joshua, yeah, all of you can head over and use your audio and your video to chat with your panel members. And let's start culture and inclusion. I'm so happy to welcome Jared Allmond and David Spinner to the stage. They're going to be taking over this moderation now. Nicole, Michel, Simone, thank you for your moderation. Thank you for your time and support. You have done an incredible job. And you can now take a break and go have some water and walk around. You are done. Bye, everybody. And Jared is going to be up here in just a moment, and I am going to leave. And Jared, here you are. Welcome to the stage.
Hey,
how are you?
hey. I'm loving life. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm going to stop talking. You can take over, and Lemon from Heaven, you can remove me from the stage. Thank you.
Awesome. What an amazing event so far this morning. Some amazing speakers from yesterday. I'm super stoked for the opportunity to lead this conversation, what I'm dubbing the culture cohort. So this conversation, we're going to be diving into ERG's mentorship, psychological safety. I'm super excited to be doing this with my partner in crime. Hopefully he'll be joining the stage here in a second, David Spinner. But just a couple of quick housekeeping things so everyone is kind of aware of the format. We're going to bring the panelists up. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, perhaps share their pronouns, and also the location in which they're joining us from. This panel, we have some amazing speakers from all over the globe, so I want to give them an opportunity to have some shout outs if they would like. And then we'll go through the questions that we've identified. One of the things that I want to point out that's going to be super lit, and I hope all you guys come and check it out and join us. After this section, we're definitely going to go and get loose in Toucan. Right, David?
You got it. All right. I'm excited for our panel. I'm excited for Toucan. So don't forget to join us there after the great panelists come up and discuss with us this great topic of culture, inclusivity. We certainly have a great set of speakers, so I look forward to our conversation today. Yeah,
David, and before we get to that, I'm really curious. I know you were part of listening to some of the conversations from yesterday. Anything that stood out to you that you were like, oh man, and really kind of change your perspective or help fine tune your vision on how you view workplace wellness?
Oh, wow. I mean, there were so many great gems that dropped all day long. For me, one of the things that stood out was the discussion around, work-life balance and the demonstration of separating the two, and why do we separate the two, and why is it called work-life balance? Why isn't it life first? Let's live, and then work just happens, right? So that's one of the things that stood out for me for sure. We use that term so often, work-life balance. Why don't we have life first?
Yeah, no diggity, no doubt. That definitely stood out for me. The harmony component, wrote it in big capital letters in many notes that I took from yesterday. It definitely resonated with me. That was the most powerful piece that I took away from yesterday among all the other great gems. So I think one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is having deep conversations in a Toucan environment after we have our panel to go through some questions. So David, what are spoiler alert, do you have any specific questions or conversations that you want to spin off in that environment?
Well, what an interesting one that came from yesterday, which wasn't in any of the bubbles. It was just a random gathering of people that joined me in my bubble on Toucan, was the conversation around how we and you are with me, Jared, in our generation, in our millennials, that we're connected to our phones, right? And the answering of the emails quickly and so on and so forth. And that Gen Zers may not be as connected in the same way. In that, and my thinking was, because we grew up with the invention of the phone, as the mobile phone, as we moved through life, and the smartphone, and we kept going, we were able to develop this attachment, whereas the next generation is learning from our mistakes, and they're learning to put away their phones. They're learning to turn it off. They're learning to turn off notifications, do not disturb, and enjoy life out there without having to be always on. So that's one of the things that came from my conversation.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited for that component. There's a lot of things that I want to dive into and really have some really meaningful conversations with not only some of the panelists, but some of the speakers from yesterday. So I think, just to kind of level set for everybody how we're going to run things here, is I want to make sure that everyone on the panel has good audio and good comms. So if everyone can just give me a hey, that way I know we're all good.
Can you hear me? It's Anna.
Ooh, yes. Anna, I can hear you.
Yes.
Sophy?
Oh, Sophy. Boom. Come on, Vivian. Oh, I can't hear you, Vivian.
We were hoping to bat 100.
No audio. But this is why I wanted to wait, do a comms check. So while we're trying to figure out the audio for Vivian, like I mentioned, I want to give everybody an opportunity to introduce yourself and a little bit about, introduce yourself, introduce your pronouns, also kind of where you are joining us today. So I think I'll start in the order in which I see. So let me see. Anna, if you could start, that'd be great.
Gladly. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Mazig. I am a compliance attorney, and I own AM & Associates, a consulting firm based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Our big focuses are compliance, threat assessment, and diversity, equity, and inclusion to support and uplift psychological and physical safety for organizations.
Amazing. Amazing. And Sophy, I know you were a speaker yesterday. I'd love to pass the mic over to you and have you introduce yourself as well.
Thanks, Jared. First of all, Anna, I want to say it's so good to hear your voice. I'm glad it worked this time around. Yay. I hope we get Vivian on. I'm excited to be here. My name is Sophy Yohannan, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am a clinical scientist at a medical device company called Gala Therapeutics. Formerly, I was at Boston Scientific, and I have 19 years experience in clinical research. I'm also an instructor for a company called Clinical Research Fast Track, new clinical research professionals. I'm also a mentor, STEM mentor for Junior Science and Humanities Symposium. That's for high school students who are interested in STEM careers. I'm really passionate about paying it forward. And so yesterday I did the mentorship discussion, and I'm really passionate about that because I think that is a great way to pay it forward and pay it back. So hopefully we can talk a little bit more about that today.
Absolutely. Amazing. And David, I'm having some connectivity issues. Looks like
right, pick up.
I can't. Yeah.
You sound good. You're coming through, but I believe we were going on to Navneet. Sorry, I do apologize. I want to make sure I get it right. So please, if you can, for me, make sure that I'm pronouncing that correctly. I know I have it phonetically in the sheet, but I still messed it up. So Navneet, welcome. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, David. You were close. A lot of people mess up the V and the N for some reason. I'm not sure why, but this is very common. So my name is Navneet Mann. I go by Nav, if that's a little bit easier for everyone. I am a former lawyer, attorney. I practiced law for 5 years before burning out and leaving the profession just in last fall. I am now a certified online coach. I coach professionals who are also going through the same type of experience, are looking to leave their profession and work for themselves. I help them make that transition and start a business online. So that's what I do. My pronouns are she and her. I should have put that in my name.
Amazing. Thank you, Navneet. And we have our final panelist has joined the stage. Jared, how are you on connectivity? Are you good?
I think I'm good now. Yeah, I think I'm good.
Awesome. So we'll bring Vivian up, and then I'll pass it back to you, Jared. But Vivian, why don't you come up and introduce yourself?
Thank you, David. You can hear me now, right?
Beautifully, loud and clear.
Yes.
Okay, good, because I almost froze there. My name is Vivian Acquah, and I call myself the Inclusive Workplace Wellness Advocate. I am based in Amsterdam, Netherlands, so it's 7 p.m. my time in Europe. And what I do is advise organizations, advise companies with putting out fires related to DEI. I'd rather be working on preventing the fires, but at the moment, there is a lot of fire happening. So luckily, my name ends with Acquah, which is water, and I'm putting out fires. So thank you.
Yes, listen, y'all, I'm so excited. Thank you all for taking some time to come kick it with us in this amazing panel. So what I figure we could do is have a couple of questions I really want to get your insight on and really leverage your expertise. So without dragging on any further, I'm just going to dive right in and address them specifically to the people that could provide expertise on, provide your answers, and that way we can take away some gems from insights and hopefully get some actionable items that we can apply to our day-to-day lives within our organizations or to ourselves. So the first question, and I'm really excited. First, like full disclosure, y'all, I'm stoked that Anna, you got comms. I'm so excited. So
I'm glad
my
too.
first question, yes. So my first question is to you. I'm really, really curious in your experience, how can organizations, leaders, and employees be actively engaged in ERGs to strengthen workplace wellness, to really create a culture of inclusion?
Sure. I think first and foremost, there needs to be the recognition or recognition given to the employees within those groups that have expertise in those areas, and be sure to pull them in. They're often going to be employees that are already involved and invested in the work. And so from there, organizations overall, and I know I mentioned some of this in the last session, but really hitting these points home of organizations need to be reviewing their policy through a diverse and equitable lens, and then having that financial backup for the work. If you're pulling people who you know to be skilled and who you trust to do the work, then let's also financially support them in doing the work, right? We don't want this work to be synonymous with charity, because those aren't the same things, and it would be improper to equate the two of them. From there, you mentioned organizations, leaders can then support and create that new policy from what it is that they're seeing with their employee groups. For example, that PTO piece. I think it's great that a lot of businesses are moving towards having, hey, let's have unlimited PTO. But what are we doing with that unlimited PTO? Are we telling people you need to take a minimum number of days off every year, so that we're really encouraging that wellness and that time away, so that we're avoiding burnout for these phenomenal employees who we love and appreciate, who undergird our businesses? And then from there, employees can continue to push and challenge the areas and elements within the organization and within the lived culture of the organization that vary from how they're seeing the mission, vision, and value statements coming forward within the org. If there isn't alignment, then there needs to be a challenge of, well, are these really our mission, vision, values? Or are we saying, no, this isn't it, or this doesn't align, or these behaviors or processes or procedures need to be rectified?
Yes, I love that. The policy piece being tied back to a strategy. Many of you might know. If you don't, I'll go ahead and share. I'm so glad you didn't use the I word initiative, right?
Yeah,
Like
no.
when I hear that word and it ties to diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and justice in the work environment, it makes me a little kind of flavor of the month-ish. So I'm so glad you tied it into strategy being associated with policy. That's amazing. David, did you have any thoughts there?
Oh, sorry. I was just reading a comment from Grant. So I did not tune in 100% to Anna's statement there. But what I did catch there was exactly about, just really focusing our inclusivity to the team, right, and to the individuals that are there. So I'm going to pass back to you, Jared, to get to the next question that you have there for Vivian, unless anybody else on the panel wanted to jump in on that question.
I just want to say that the ERG system in Europe, it's not a common thing. So there's a lot to win for companies that are based in Europe or also elsewhere that aren't activating ERGs. It's a way to create a win-win-win situation for all different stakeholders. And I really love what Anna said about using ERG as a strategy, but also realizing that there are companies out there that are paying their ERGs. So let's show your employees that you value them and give them a budget, give them money for the efforts that they are investing in putting up an ERG and leading an ERG. And there are so many ways that you can add value to their life, to their careers, to amplify ERGs in the workplace.
I love that. I wanted to add, Anna, I loved how you talked about rebuilding. So don't be afraid to rebuild, take a look at the mission and vision. And if you have to rewrite it, don't be afraid. If a new mission or vision is more in line with your company culture or where you're going, not where you are, but where you're going, don't be afraid to redo it. If we're saying we're building, we're changing, and we're growing, let's show our employees, let's show our teams. And I think someone said earlier, actions speak louder than words, right? So let's show them by not being afraid.
Exactly.
Yeah, actions is where it's at. It's the how, right? I love that. So that actually leads me into the question that I have for you, Vivian, that I'm super stoked that you're, again, another amazing human being. The question I have for you is, how can people amplify psychological safety to not only create a workplace culture that can drive an inclusive environment, but maybe even create a psychological safety that can foster creating ERGs that, like you mentioned, that could be an asset to the organization?
The first thing that people need to realize that it's for everything that you want to tie into DEI, it's important to ask the employees about what you need. What is it that you need to create a safe space for you? And also realize that this is not a question that needs to be asked in a big group, but just a small selected group. What are the tools that you need to feel safe in this community? And also, if it is possible, do it anonymous. And if not, as a team leader, I feel like you need to ask these questions so that you know what your employees need to feel safe. And also realize that ERGs are there to amplify the thought leadership, amplify whoever is joining that ERG group. So they have to feel safe and have to feel secure. And if that security is breached, what are the steps that are being taken to still be able to provide a safety and to reiterate, the terms of conditions or the code of conduct, which I sometimes don't see in ERGs, whether it's within the company or whether it's a different business resource group where people from outside are joining, and have a code of conduct ready to provide that safety, and also to remember people that this is the code of conduct, that this needs to be honored in this space.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that, Vivian. Thank you so much. Anybody else on the panel before we move on to our next question? I also just want to highlight a comment that was coming up in the chat as well from our friend Tia Romero, who said the unlimited PTO is only to protect the employer from paying out the PTO hours when the employee leaves. I love that. I think that's a good thing to highlight, because I think we have to keep that in mind She adds on to that, which is most of these unlimited PTO have very strict rules. So they say unlimited PTOs, right? And I think the message that Taya is trying to get across is, but there's barriers to unlimited, right? So I think that's what companies have to start to do. And Taya, thank you so much for that comment. Jared, on to you for our next question.
Yeah.
Can I add something related to the PTO part where I
Absolutely.
don't have to be moved up, but just a quick thing. Oh, you did move me up. Just a quick thing about what Anna said, right? Make sure that people are taking a minimum.
Yes.
Because it's very tricky to say that celebrate and do this for employer branding. But if people are not taking the minimum that is necessary for them to recharge, then what kind of an employer are you? What kind of brand are you saying? And also realize that not everybody feels safe, feels secure to take the holiday or the mental breaks when they need it. So what are you doing in that case? What tools are you providing for them to be able to feel safe and say, I want to take a day off? I wish I had that. I need to talk to my own boss, which is me, because today should have been my PTO day. But then again, it's also a good way for me to learn from this in a future reference and block recharge moment for myself.
I just want to echo what Vivian is saying here as well. Is I think that a lot of employees don't always feel safe taking that time off. They don't always feel like they have the opportunity, or the workload is just so heavy that there's no way they can take that extended amount of time off to have enough time to actually recharge. And I know, I mean, in the legal space that happens quite a bit, but it happens in so many different industries. And then we find employees that are asking to move their PTO to the next year, and how far can they keep pushing it along because they're not taking that time off that they actually need, right? And that's a really quick road to burnout. So then when we talk about the psychological safety, asking employees is really, really important. And I do agree with what Vivian said. If we can ask them anonymously and really understand what the workforce is needing in order to have that, to remove some of those barriers, I think with communication, that's the only way we're actually going to be able to create those safe environments. Otherwise, everyone is kind of walking on eggshells, not able to take the time off, but being forced to take the time off, but then coming back to a huge workload, and then there's something there to be said about, I guess, digital boundaries as well. When people are taking that time off, are they actually mentally resting?
No, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. Now, I have a question that actually for you and Anna from a boundary perspective, from a legal perspective, right? The policy piece to ensure that employees are taking what's allotted to them. How important is that policy in creating an inclusive culture that is focused on driving workplace wellness?
I think kind of similar to what Tia's comment was about, sometimes those policies are in place to protect the employer, right? They're there to protect the organization, to say, well, we have these policies, so our staff, our workplace, our employees should be taking them. But if there isn't any accountability when it comes to those policies, if we're not actually following up and making sure that the workloads are balanced, and that reaching out and making sure that our staff has what they need when they need it, then there's no point of having that policy if it's never going to be implemented.
This is Anna. I completely agree with what Navneet is sharing. Essentially, what is it that's being done on that accountability piece to ensure that the policy that's created is that there's follow through, and that there aren't then excuses given or other policies that trump a particular situation to say, hey, we need you to take a minimum, but did you know that these 4 other policies trump your ability to take the required minimum? So thinking about things like that, and in response to Taya's comment, which I also appreciated in the chat, one question I had in response, well, then what is the true reason for the unlimited PTO? Is it because we're trying to seem like we're really great, or are we showing up as like, no, this is how we want to show up for our employees because we appreciate them? And then relatedly, doing some type of audit, getting that feedback, synonymous with what Vivian was sharing What type of information are you getting in from your employees to say, hey, this is working or this isn't working? Is it because of an individual? Is it because of a process? Is it because of a particular team that poses a lot of challenges for individuals within the organization? And then fixing those hiccups along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, the employee, to have an employee-centric culture, it's really critical that it isn't just a top-down approach. And that goes across the organization. When you talk about policy decision-making, being fully inclusive cannot happen from a top-down approach. It has to be a blended approach, right? Where you listen to your employees, you ask them meaningful questions, but where it really magic happens is when what is asked by the employees gets executed on from the top down. That's where the real magic happens. So I think that's awesome, which actually leads me. Oh, go ahead, David.
I want to pause you before you lead you to the next question, because I had a thought as this conversation was going, and since we're a little bit ahead of time, we're good. I saw that Nike is shutting down in August for a week for their employees to recharge and reset, which I think it's a great thought process. It's a great plan. I love that to a certain degree. And on the other end, it's like it's forcing that week. But again, it doesn't take away from their other PTOs and their other vacation times and so on. So in the end, I think it's an amazing initiative from Nike. They're doing it it's the second year that they're doing this, and they're keeping it going. I think it was a pandemic-driven plan, and I think they're going to keep it going. And I think a lot of companies need to go down that road. What are your thoughts?
A lot of employees need it. I mean, definitely with this pandemic has stretched us, it has overstretched our capability of working and the way of working, and also people being in your space, which used to be only at home, and now it's work, home, and everything, right? So the fact that LinkedIn and also other companies that I think Starbucks did it, and also Nike did it last year, somewhere in June, where they are providing people their space back. They are providing some time for people to recharge. And how beautiful is it that you are having a gift and not waiting upon Thanksgiving, not waiting upon Christmas to have that recharge moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, I wanted to jump in and just echo that as well.
Please do. Absolutely.
I love that David brought this up, because I think when we see these large, global organizations taking the lead with this type of stuff and really honoring employee wellness, that really does give other organizations the permission. It creates a new norm in our industries, which we haven't seen, because pre-pandemic, it was really about the hustle. It was really about hard work, staying on 24/7. We didn't even know what boundaries really were. So being able to create this space and taking the lead on that with Nike, I think is just absolutely amazing. And I really hope to see more of this, as time goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with that 1,000%. I do like it when the big boys do things like this, because then smaller organizations can look at it and go, I mean, look, it's not affecting their bottom line. And larger organizations oftentimes are driven by stock prices, right? And so if they can do that and it doesn't impact their value in the market, it sends a strong message to the smaller organizations that, hey, if these organizations are doing it, we certainly can as well. So I want to do a kind of quick pivot to something that was an amazing speech yesterday that Sophy, you gave on mentorship. And, you spoke about building a culture that fosters collaboration, which I freaking love that. I think that is super dope. And using the two birds, one stone approach. So my question is, how can leaders, employees, and organizations adopt this approach to create a healthy mentorship within their organization? Because I think when certain organizations that I talk to, when they hear mentorship, it's so antiquated. And your take is so refreshing when we talk about effective mentorship. So I'm super curious to hear what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. That's a very good question. So the traditional sense of mentorship is, passing on skills or experience, and taking somebody under your wing, and planning for succession, those kinds of things. And while I'm not saying that that's completely antiquated, I'm saying that's not everything. right? That's not the whole story. And in our current workplace situations, we really need to think of the whole picture. So, how can we foster collaboration while building a really strong and rich mentorship program? We have to think of who we are putting together, the mentor and the mentee in each situation, and both should be benefiting from each other. That's really key. So the traditional sense of a senior mentoring a junior, and the junior benefiting, and the senior being the one imparting wisdom or knowledge, that part is antiquated. It really should be a two-way street. If you think about some of our younger generation, people who have come into the workforce in just the past 5 or 10 years, they have certain skills that are natural to them because of their generation, compared to some of us who are a little bit older. And we can use those skills and those strengths to our advantage. Whereas, some of the more experienced people have that kind of boots on the ground experience that can be beneficial to younger people. So leaders within companies, within organizations, really should be pinpointing the strengths of each individual and matching people up. So it shouldn't be, a senior mentoring a junior. That's one way, and it's not effective. It's not enough anymore. It really should be two people who have strengths that the other can use, and should be exchanging those strengths, those experiences. And when I talk about collaboration and inclusion, if you compare two people from different generations and also from two different backgrounds, so two different racial, ethnic, geographic backgrounds, or even experience backgrounds, training backgrounds, educational backgrounds. So I work with a lot of engineers. I'm not an engineer, right? My background is clinical, but I love working with my engineers because they give me a background that I don't have, and if I have some deficits, they can fill those in, and vice versa. I love explaining things, complex clinical situations, in a way that they can understand, and they love explaining the physics part to me. So that's just an example. There are so many examples like that. And if you are pairing two people from two different backgrounds together, and they're learning techniques and experiences for the on-the-job training, they don't even realize, but they're passively learning about each other's cultures also while they're spending all this time together. They're learning about each other's backgrounds, each other's families, each other's cuisine, and religions, and all kinds of things. You don't even think about that, but it happens when you spend that time with each other. And that's what's important. We're humans, and as much as we don't like to admit it, we need each other. We really need each other. Nobody can do it alone. So that's what I want to come across as the
Yes,
more
yes,
effective
yes,
mentorship.
yes, and more yes. Bookmark this and go back and watch it again and again and again, right? Like that's wellness right there. Bookmark that and go back and listen to it. That was amazing. Sophy, thank you so much for that. And David, I know that there's some comments that we want to give some shout outs to.
Yeah, absolutely. The comments are flowing in like water down the Nile. It's unbelievable. Simone threw out that managers need to encourage team members to take their vacay, of course, and together they need to plan how to manage the workload in an employee's absence. I love that comment. Together, doing it as a team, working, in conjunction, so that that the employee can really feel like they're away from work. I think that's what she says, is that will encourage the true time away from work on a more timely basis. As we know, all organizations are busy, and it's never a good time. So I think managers really need to encourage that, or that's what Simone, and I support that 100% on that comment. Patra was supporting that idea. She loves this idea, communicating in teams, picking up work, and that's where a team really, really, really comes together. And so that's amazing. I also, Patra stated earlier that it's tough when you ask employees what they need and they tell you more staff, right? And that's a very common answer. We need more people. but unfortunately, we know that's been a struggle these days as well. So those are just a few of the amazing comments. Keep them coming, everybody. And Jared, I know you have more questions, and we still have some time, so that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's keep it rolling. As they say, I got one question for everybody. So I think this is, Nicole did a great job of asking all the panelists, what's the one actionable item? And that's what's key about the summit, right? Like, we want to provide information to the folks that are attending that can take pieces away and apply it to their day-to-day lives. I've shared before in a previous setting that my favorite quote of all time is by Aristotle, and it's educating the brain without educating the heart is no education at all. So the key for the summit is for us to educate the heart so we can really drive change within ourselves, impacting our organizations and impacting the teams that we lead, right? So my question to all of these amazing panelists is, what is one actionable item that the audience can take away and implement today to impact workplace wellness, to create a culture of inclusion? And I'm going to go opposite way I see y'all. So I'm going to start with you first, Sophy.
Oh, you caught me by surprise. Very good. So I think the one thing that could apply to everyone, whether you're a leader, middle management, individual contributor, or new to the team, is be authentic, right? Be your authentic self. Bring your authentic self to work. Ask questions. Ask for what you need. Don't be afraid to state what's not working, because you never know, there might be another person on your team who's too shy to ask for the same thing, or too scared to complain. And now you've given them a voice, right? Now you've given them a platform to stand up and say, yes, we need that. Yes, we need a minimum vacation time. Unlimited PTO is not enough. We need to know what we need to be taking at a minimum, and give that voice to other people. And you'll find that it'll happen. It'll come back to you.
Awesome. Sophy, you're amazing. Hopefully, again, just a quick announcement for everyone. We're going to be having an amazing conversation, carrying over this piece over in the Toucan environment after today's panel. I hope to see and connect with every one of y'all there in that environment. So with that, I want to pass it over and ask you, Anna, the same question. What is one actionable item that the audience can take and implement today to impact workplace wellness, to create a culture of inclusion?
Sure. I think taking matters into their own hands and reviewing policy and procedure as it pertains to their department or their team, looking at, are there things that relate to their customer or client interactions that could also suggest or encourage more of that inclusion, as well as those internal policies with how teams engage with each other, how managers engage with their subordinates, how leadership engages with the organization, and so on and so forth. And be willing to ask some of those questions that may seem tough, but know that those questions are welcomed, especially if an organization or entity values growth in a very real way.
Man, just another great gem. I'm telling you, I've got to bookmark this component. There's some really good stuff. I can't wait to go back and watch it later. The next person I want to ask now, what is one actionable item that the audience can take away and implement today to impact workplace wellness, to create a culture of inclusion? And Navneet, I would love to hear what your answer is to that.
Yeah, I think the openness piece is really, really big. So being able to share how you feel, at least finding somebody in the organization that you feel comfortable being able to share these things with, being inquisitive, both from a leadership standpoint, but also from, the employee standpoint, is questioning, is this how things should be done? Or is this fully aligned with our policies, with our vision, with our mission of our organization? Are we checking in and making sure that, everyone is staying accountable to that? I think that the accountability piece is quite big as well. So I would say the one key takeaway is just be inquisitive and don't be afraid to kind of question the norm, because things may not be moving in the smoothest way, and there might be, room for improvement there.
Absolutely. I love that curiosity piece, right? Joshua talked about that yesterday. 1000%. I love that. Vivian, what is one, I know it's going to be tough because there's a bunch, but one actionable item that the audience can take away and implement today to impact workplace wellness to create a culture of inclusion?
I'll keep it simple and keep it fun, right? We all know potlucks for food, where you organize.
I knew you were going to have a food
something.
drop here.
Of course. But in this case, hold a well-being potluck where we all share our best recipe or our best tools, what we are doing for when it comes to recharging. So if one employee is sharing just the one tip, and every month they implement that one tip, right? To activate and to rotate what is happening in the workplace. So maybe all go gift a massage, or maybe have a book club session, or maybe do something outside where you're volunteering, because well-being, recharging yourself, it works differently for different people. So why not share all these different ideas that people have and hold a well-being potluck? So no, I know that potlucks are meant for food, but in this case, it's about the recharging element.
And nothing stops you from bringing food to the well.
Exactly, David. Exactly.
No, listen, if you're not following Vivian already, go check her out. She does some phenomenal work, but she always has a really cool, unique spin, usually tied back to food, which is amazing. So definitely check her stuff out. Well, panelists, I know from time perspective, it looks like we're coming up against it. I want to thank you all for being a part of the summit. I hope to see you in a couple minutes. We're going to hop over into the Toucan environment. If you can, that would be amazing. Would love to carry on this conversation and meet some additional folks that have been joining the summit as well. David, any last comments that popped up while we were chatting with the panelists?
No, I threw it in there just to echo Vivian's comment, a recipe for wellness. I love that, a recipe with the, the potluck. We also, I put in the chat, I put the link for the Toucan. So everybody that's out there watching this, please grab that link. I put that in the chat of the LinkedIn. So come on over. We can, connect over there. Let's continue this great conversation. I mean, we went from ERGs. We talked about culture and curiosity. Ask questions. Invite those questions. And obviously Anna focused on policy, as she loves to do. We know that. And I love it. And the importance of putting a policy in place that really includes everybody. I think that's important. It's not just writing a policy and saying, here, follow the policy. Sorry, we have a guest appearance by Stone, my dog. He doesn't have much to say on inclusivity, though. So that, that's what we got out there. And the comments were rich. Nothing new, but all those that we had were just amazing. If employers care about us, hire enough of us. Taya Romero, thank you again for some great comments by Taya.
Here's one last thing I want to ask of the panelists on their way out, and then I think we're going to be transitioning to the next cohort to have them come up. If we were to give you an exit song that you would ride off into the sunset off of this panel, who would it be? What song? What artist? Let's start with you first this time, Vivian.
Beyonce, Bigger.
I knew it. I knew you were going to be B. I knew it. I knew it.
I can go.
Yeah.
I don't know what song it would be, but it would probably be something with Rihanna. But I can't, off the top of my head, think of an exit song. But definitely that strong woman power.
Okay. All right. Anna?
I love a good victory ballad from Imagine Dragons, so probably one of theirs.
Okay. All right. Sophy?
For me, it would be Happy. Pharrell Williams. Gotta have it.
I love that song.
And Jared, if I had to pick one for you, it would be Hero by the Foo Fighters.
Oh, well, thank you, my friend. Thank you. Dave, what would yours be?
Oh, it would have to be a Dave Matthews Band song, just because that's my band. As you can see the flag in the background of me, other side there behind me. I don't know. There's so many of them, but probably Ants Marching, because we're just all ants marching.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, speakers, thank you so much. Again, I really, really am so thankful that you would carve out some time to come kick it with us and share your insight in this amazing summit. Please hop over in the Toucan side as soon as, I don't know about David, but as soon as I get done here, passing it over to the next panel, I'm definitely going to pop over there and would love to kick it and meet anyone that's attending the summit. Also chat with the fellow panelists as well. Have a further discussion if that sounds like something you guys want to do. Panelists are free to click out and leave. David and I are going to freestyle rap. He doesn't know that yet, but we're about to freestyle.
You mean I've been writing down my rap notes right here, my rhymes. My money don't jiggle. It folds.
Well, I was hoping you would rhyme and I would just kind of beatbox and lay down a funky beat.
I thought we were actually going to do our TikTok dance that we rehearsed earlier.
Oh, I was saving that for the Toucan. Now everyone's going to see that.
There we go.
Wait, now we can't leave.
Honestly, to back to some seriousness, I want to thank the panelists as well. Thank you for your great contributions. What a great conversation. We'll continue it over on Toucan. If you go over into the audience, if you're staying over, going over to Toucan, look forward to meeting you over there. And if you're going to stick around, we have some great panelists coming up on the next conversation on mental health and belongingness. So if you're sticking around, you know you're going to get some great information.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at my program notes. It looks like, yeah, you're right, David. We're going to be talking about mental health and belonging. Going to have two amazing moderators for that with Jenn Hensel and Rebecca O'Brien. Hey,
there's Rebecca.
Hey, and there is Jenn. Amazing. Thank you guys so much. I am looking forward to hearing what you guys have cooking in your panel discussion. And who do you think would make a better, who do you think should rap and who do you think should be the beatboxer? David be the rapper and I be the beatboxer, or vice versa?
I was so excited just to hear that TikTok song of the, my money don't jiggle, it folds. So I was like, David, take it away on that.
I'm learning it. I'm still learning it. I told my daughter I was going to force her to TikTok with me so we can do it.
Awesome. Love it. I think at this point we're going to pass it over to you guys. And,
here.
Yeah, I see the hook coming. Anyway.
Hello, Jenn. Hi, everyone. Oh, I can't hear you now. Hold on. I can't hear you now. I don't even know if the audience can hear me now. We should do a little check 1 2 1 2. Let's see. I think with audio, the settings should be fine. I'm just looking there. I cannot hear you, but let's do, as long as I just have I'm just checking for my audio. If someone could just, in the back channel, I'd really appreciate it. We can see just as if we're hearing Jenn or if we're hearing myself, and we will get this party started.
Rebecca, we can hear you just fine. We can't hear Jenn.
Okay. So I'll do a little chat while Jenn is getting set up. And wow, this whole day I've been jumping in and out here. I've been taking notes. The previous speakers, the previous panel discussions have been just so fantastic. And what a way to day 2 on this topic. I thank you to everyone who has joined us, both in the audience and, of course, again, the committee and the support and the tech support rolling out great today, and as well as the speakers yesterday and, of course, panel members today. We're going to be jumping into mental health and belonging. And I'm really excited about this one. I know it's such a passionate topic and such an important one as all of the topics we've spoken on today. And some people have really, we've dabbled into that, both in leadership, it has come up, in workplace wellness, it has come up, in culture, it has come up, in communication, everything that we've spoken on today, we've been able to touch on and really include mental health as, we are health and we all have our mental health. So I see Sumana here. I'll just let her go to jump in to, and then we'll get
stepping in to check if Jenn's audio is working.
I'm checking in.
Okay, I'm gonna leave. Get me out of here.
You're the best, Sumana. We'll see you soon. Okay, sorry about that, Rebecca. Thanks for the grace for getting that figured out. Well, I had to reload my page and everything.
Jenn. I'm so glad that worked out. And that thing, sometimes it's really about that pause to take a breath and to reset and reboot. And I think that kind of goes with, technology, but ourselves as
And now I'm having trouble hearing you, Rebecca.
Okay, let's see.
I'm not sure if it's on my end or not.
I hear you now clearly. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you. It's a bit choppy for a second, but let's keep moving. And if one of us just has to take over and do a little soliloquy, I think we're both agreed for that. Great. Okay. So I'm super happy to be here with you. It's the final session on day 2. We're talking about mental health and belonging. And, I just want to chat with you for a few minutes. I've known you for about a year. We met via Clubhouse through Sumana and so many other social connections that we have. And it's been brilliant to get to know you and hear you in this thought leadership space. But I would love to talk with you a little bit about how you see psychological safety impacting our work environments, and how have you experienced safety or a lack of safety?
Great question to kick us off here. Thank you for that. Really with psychological safety, we've seen this in the other topics we've spoken about today, and especially with our mental health and, where we are standing on a safe environment, both within workplaces, within our lives, and everything integrated. But just getting back to your question with psychological safety, for me, it comes down to the communication and really having the vulnerable conversations and being able to speak on that and being able to share on that, and ending, we're working towards ending the stigma around mental health. And I think there's often been, and I can say in my case as well, but what I've experienced in workplaces with professionalism is we often, we set that aside and we might put on our corporate mask or work mask or whatever role we have, looking at or other roles. And that was for myself as well before I heard that I was wearing a mask and I didn't want to share, and there was this real stigma connected to it. And even if there still is, we're working towards ending that. And it comes down to that communication, and it can be very simply of asking our work colleagues or asking our teams, as leaders, of a simple question of how are you doing, and how are you doing, really, and asking them, how can I support you this week? Or, what does your schedule look like with this and this project I know you're working on? How can I be there to support you as you're going to go pitch this important project on Friday? Whatever that is, I think it really comes down to the communication and not being afraid to share ourselves, and sharing that both with our personal life and how much of that we want to share, but also in the question of, we have been through this pandemic and it's been a very tough year and tough 2 years for all of us.
Yeah, no, it definitely has been a tough couple years.
Just leaning into that ability and not being afraid to share.
I'm not sure if we lost Rebecca.
I just heard you there, but
I'm frozen. Shoot. This is not ending well on the tech side for me. I'm so sorry, but you can hear me, you just can't see me.
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, both. So you know what, when you were talking, one of the things that I was really thinking about was whether it comes from leadership, because it's not always going to come top down, right? Sometimes leadership is not invested in creating a safe culture. That's just not where their priority is. And while we all may believe that it should be their priority, it is what it is. And so what we can do at a peer-to-peer level to support each other and to build community among each other is really about, to me, it's about understanding enough about where other people are coming from and recognizing the weight that they carry and the different dimensions with which they walk through the world and interact with society, right? To recognize that and be kind about that with the people around you, right? So I even think right now in the United States, women, a lot of women are just mentally and emotionally having a bit of a tough couple weeks, right? And for companies to be able to recognize that, for management to be able to recognize that and know that, you know what, it's some people may not be as focused as they would like to be. Some people are a little bit more fragile than they might otherwise be, and to give grace where they can. And that runs true for a variety of subsections of people in our culture, right? Like when, again, I'm only speaking from a US perspective, but when there is some real racial reckoning that is happening in the US, and you know, you really think about the summer of 2020, our Black friends and colleagues were going through more mentally and emotionally than we as a white group of, you know, cisgender, white, middle-class people were necessarily going through. And so to be able to recognize that the view of the world that I have and the experiences that I have are not what everyone else may be experiencing, and to decenter ourselves and recognize that my peer may be having a bad week because of XYZ, and therefore should I step in, like you said, and how can I offer support? What can I take off your plate this week? What do you need next week? If you need to come in late or you don't want to chat, like, let's have some code words for how to make sure that you, in your vulnerability, feel as safe as possible.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and that is so much within our communication and how we can approach that, and like we've spoken earlier today, I mean, leaning into that with curiosity and kindness, and you know, just providing a safe space of, you know, we want to be able to support each other, and what would that look like, and I think really around there, you know, mental health and looking at the shame and judgment that it has been, you know, connected to it, it really silences our stories. So I think we must, you know, we must break the silence in order to break the stigma.
Right. I think that the stigma and understanding that it is there and what we can all do to reduce it is so important. And I am so excited because it looks like the panelists are coming up. All right, Rebecca, I'm going to let you take over and introduce some of our panelists.
Yes, hello. Yes, thank you. So we have, let's see. So we have Will Hale here. I was hoping to see everyone. I could see everyone down below there.
Hello.
Julie Boyer. Hi, Will. Navneet, Mann, and of course, as well. So welcome, everyone. We were hoping that Valerie could join us as well because she was supposed to be on the panel. I say we just get started. And I welcome you all, and I'm so excited for you to join us on this panel. So one of the questions I want to start off with looking at, mental health. We said we're focusing on and looking this through the lens of belonging. And with this discussion today, I'd love to just shoot off a first question of how can we create a sense of the workplace? And Will, you're more than first, and then I'll come to Julie and Navneet thereafter.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the things that came up with the question, they sound very similar words, psychological, but I also think of it as physiological, because I don't think it's just in our mind, it's actually in our physical bodies. And that's why I know there's a lot of talk now about mindfulness, and it's getting pretty mainstream, but a lot of what I work on is I'm categorizing as heartfulness, which honors that energy part of it. As well as, just the thought parts of it. So there we go. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that. And I appreciate what you said, both the heartfelt and embodiment, because it is our whole strong. Julie, I'd love to ask you the same question here of how we create a sense of belonging in the workplace. Oh, I can't hear you, Julie. I'm not sure if our audience can, but I have difficulty hearing you here now.
Unmute your mic.
It might say just in the restream where we're streaming from now, if you go to the left-hand corner, there's 3 little dots there. If you click on them and just check the audio in that sense. But what we'll do, check it, Julie. I'll talk to you, of course. And I'd love to ask you the same question, and we can hear from you, of a sense of belonging in the workplace.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rebecca. I think creating a sense of belonging is so important, and there's so many different prongs to it. But one thing for sure is having an open environment where people feel safe to speak and share. And that's like without judgment. That is just creating an openness where people can come and bring their concerns or opinions. And then the other part of that is that if people do not feel comfortable opening up and sharing, how can we actually sorry, Julie, I think your mic is working though. How can we ask questions? How can we be curious? How can we check in with people in the workplace and make sure that they are comfortable? And if not, what changes need to be implemented, right? Like, what is the source of the discomfort? What needs to be implemented? How can we make people feel safe? And, more, I guess safety is like really ties in and belonging for me. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah. No, I love that, and I can appreciate that with safety of really being that foundation, and I think it's a key part of workplaces today. Of we can build from that and just leaning into the curiosity and kindness, like I was saying before. So, Julie, I see that you're back, and I'd love to come to this question again. So, how can we create a sense of belonging in the workplace?
So hi, Rebecca, and everyone who's watching live and the recording. I'm Julie Boyer. I'm a gratitude and gut health expert, and I love to show you new and different ways to practice gratitude and care for your digestive system. And I'm also the host of the Wake Up with Gratitude podcast. So my focus is a lot to do around gratitude and how we are practicing gratitude. And when I think about a sense of belonging, Marion said it actually on the first day, which was that when leadership is expressing gratitude, when it's starting from the top, when it's really being appreciative of people, it's easy to create a sense of belonging. I mean, just think about it. When you are appreciated for your work, when you are having other people express their gratitude for the work that you're doing, for the ideas you're sharing, for whatever that is, that automatically brings a better sense of belonging and being seen. And I would add that, as the leadership starts to explore different ways to, really infuse a workplace with gratitude, is to think about, we talk so much about individual needs through this whole summit, right? Everybody's individual. They have individual needs and desires. So I would offer to help someone feel like they belong to your community, your workplace, is find out what their love language is and use that to help express gratitude in that way. So if someone on your team really likes words of affirmation, like find out, ask these questions, find out. And so then when you're expressing gratitude towards them, you're using words of affirmation to show them that you appreciate them. So that to me would be a great way to increase belonging in the workplace.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing it. And what a great tool to, again, it's the questions of getting to know each other and seeing, how can we support each other. And I agree and can appreciate the love, how we are. And that self-awareness and just communicating that to panel members.
We can't hear you, Rebecca. I'm so sorry.
Oh, can you hear me now?
We can now, yes.
I was just saying, Jenn, please, I'd love you were speaking of earlier today, just to our panel members.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really curious about, again, from the variety of perspectives that we have on this panel, can you share some of the best turnaround stories that you've seen, right? Like in a workplace, having gone from one extreme of a lack of safety, psychological safety, and others, to one that truly embodies belonging. Because I think sometimes it's hard to know how to right the ship, but if you have case studies or examples, I'd love to have those shared out. So Navneet, if you have any examples of that, that would be wonderful to share.
Thank you, Jenn. So I didn't introduce myself in this panel, but I am a former attorney. So I practiced law for 5 years. I actually burnt out and left for a variety of reasons, mostly because everything that we're talking about in this summit was not included in those firms. So I have lots of examples of what not to do and how not to create belonging and actually to create a lot of division in that perspective. However, I'm also the president of a board of directors for a nonprofit where the Surrey Women's Centre, where we support women that are fleeing domestic assault and violence. And from that perspective, we've really focused on wellness. We've really focused on like staff safety and belonging in that environment. And I think one of the things that we've done with our new executive director is really focus on collecting the data when it comes to the staff. How are they actually feeling on a day-to-day, right? What improvements are needed in this organization at every single level in order to create a better environment for them so they are better equipped to do their work, but also take care of themselves. So really prioritizing mental health and breaks and open communication has been really big. So that's one difference that I've seen, even from a staff retention perspective, where we were losing a lot of people that were burning out or just not feeling heard, and having these open lines of communication between them and, like higher level management or even the board has been really, really imperative in making that change and helping with retention, but also giving the staff I think the space and the time that they need in order to be able to show up as their best selves and not be pushed or feel pressured at work.
Yeah, no, I think you brought up such a great point, because I also think from that leadership perspective, if leaders truly want to see change, they have to be curious and authentically open to take things seriously, but not personally, right? And to really get a benchmark of where their staff is, to understand that although they may have certain feelings and experiences about the workplace, that the feelings and experiences of their staff is really the most important, and to understand it, what the status quo is, so that they can make actual change instead of just assuming things are fine because they're fine. Right. So Will, and I see Valerie has joined us. I'd love to ask you the same question. Have you seen or experienced any good case studies? Because as Navneet said, and I can attest, I think we all can, we know what an unsafe environment looks like. Do any of you, Will, Valerie, Julie, have some case studies around good turnaround examples that we might look to for inspiration and some ideas? Will or Julie? It looks like we might have lost Valerie, but how about Will? Can you share?
I'm here. Wasn't sure who you were calling on everyone at once.
Sorry.
I work with a lot of different organizations all at the same time, which is kind of interesting because I see a lot of different cultures and a lot of different ways that people do things. And I have this belief that I say a lot about: complicated problems don't always need complicated solutions. And a lot of the things are really actually very simple and very easy, and may not really seem necessarily intuitively a directly related answer. But, we started talking about safety and, the whole thing of how that can be such a foundation of everything else, how people get along with each other, how every area of life works. And it, when it starts to be seen as helping productivity and cost effectiveness, and all of these things are connected to that. Yeah, I think it's actually a skill, and people think this is kind of a mystical sort of thing sometimes, this health thing, but it's really a skill, something easily that you can learn, and it can be fun too. And that's what I think you're asking also a little bit about, ways that people have done things differently. And one of the things I do is I call it a harmony refresh, where we just feel our heartbeat, breathe and relax. It's something you can do really quick, really easily. Just imagine if you could meditate driving the car with your eyes open in traffic. I mean, that's kind of what it is. So it's something you can use anywhere, anytime. But what's also interesting about that is maybe making fun ways that I've seen people use it, is to find ways to build the habit and to get used to doing it. There's a term called action triggers. Some people might have heard of that. Basically, you're associating one behavior with something else to do it. So one of the ones we've used just for fun, and you can make up your own, is like, say, every time you see the number 12, you do a harmony refresh, you feel your heartbeat, just take 2 breaths or whatever it is. I mean, you can decide what it is. It doesn't have to be complicated. Every time you sit down in your chair, you take 3 breaths. I don't know. It could be simple things like that, that's just filtered throughout the day, instead of trying to fix something that's broken, keeping the momentum and the maintenance of harmony all the time. So that's what I would say. Thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, Will, for the thought on a harmony refresh. I want to call in Valerie, and she is going to be off camera so that we can hear her audio. So don't be surprised by that. But Valerie, if you would introduce yourself, we're so happy that you're here. And if you can kind of chime in on this, do you have great examples of transitions from unsafe work environments to safer ones? But take it away, Valerie.
Hi. I'm Val, and having internet issues. I'm in Portland, and I'm an integrated physical therapist and yoga therapist. And yeah.
I think the audio may have cut out again. That on my end. So sorry.
That's okay. I can still hear you, Jen. I can't hear Valerie though.
Okay. Sorry about that. We are all having internet issues. It's like somehow the whole globe decided now's the time to get on the Wi-Fi, and so we are all struggling on this bus a little bit. So Julie, let's bring you into the conversation. I think you have a really interesting take from kind of that healthcare gut perspective about psychological safety in the workplace, and maybe what you have seen in some of the clients that you work with who have made really beneficial transitions.
So what I will say, because I don't have as much experience as everybody else working on belonging specifically in the workplace, my work is more around mental health and gratitude. What I will say is that working with clients, I do group coaching programs. And what I will say from a leadership perspective is that when the leader becomes authentic and transparent and shares safely and appropriately their own experiences, it really helps a client or an employee to see that person as a human being. And I think we forget sometimes that, just because someone's in a leadership role doesn't mean they're not going through their own difficult challenges, their own mental health things. And I think that if we can start to show transparency and authenticity and be real with people, that helps this feeling of belonging, because we're all in this together. So if we're addressing mental health and belonging with our team, and we as leaders are not, and we're not acknowledging that we struggle with these areas too, because I don't know anybody who doesn't struggle with that, all different, levels of it. And I don't know anybody right now who's not struggling with mental health. Like if they're not struggling, they're not being authentic. So I think for leadership in the workplace is to say as a leader, I am going to show up and I'm also going to be myself. And if that means that I might cry in a meeting because I'm overwhelmed with emotion, I'm going to let that happen. And I know that sounds like a terrible thing to do in a meeting, but as a leader, when you are in that place, like when you allow your emotion to flow, first of all, you create a safer environment for those around you to say it's okay to have real emotions because you're a human being. So this idea of just having to show up in a certain way all the time. And again, we need to be appropriate, of course, and there are boundaries that must not be crossed. But there are just times and moments where just being that human being, that raw human being, actually brings everybody closer together and allows us to feel like we belong because we're in the same thing. We just mentioned briefly about what's going on with women's reproductive rights, right? So if you're as a leader and you're ignoring that as a female and it's really upsetting you, your team is upsetting you, and you're pretending like it's not affecting you, that doesn't bring the team closer together. It will bring I'm not saying we need to have conversations about this in the workplace. It's acknowledging that this is hard for me too. And maybe this isn't the conversation we're going to have in our workplace right now. Maybe it is. Depends on what workplace you're in, right? But it's acknowledging that I'm feeling this too. So you're not alone. I'm feeling this too. Let's support each other.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy that you kind of brought that back around, because I do think that those current events impact us, right? As humans who live in society, when something big is happening and it's triggering, it is beneficial for leadership to acknowledge it, whether it has to be an out and out conversation or not. It might just be a smile and a nod. It might be like a, hey, I get it kind of a look. And sometimes that might be enough for someone to just know that like who I am and what I'm experiencing is at least acknowledged and I'm safe to be that, right? So let's move on to kind of, again, we're talking about this like leadership's role, and if they do or don't take into account workplace safety and culture and mental health and well-being. So if someone is in a scenario in the workplace that doesn't seem to have the ability or desire to change, what steps can a person take to protect themselves, their own emotional and mental health, while they have to stay in that unsafe environment? Will, let's turn to you and then to Navneet.
Okay. I basically have one answer for everything. I just use over and over and over and over and over again. And this is just one tool. I understand people want to have transportation to get from one place to another, and maybe they want a car, but I'm like the lug nuts that hold it all together. This is where I go back to that really simple thing, and it might sound weird and again unrelated, but it's kind of like turning on a light switch. You don't have to be an electrical engineer to turn on a light switch, right? So just this simple thing of just feeling your physical heartbeat is very recentering and very reconnecting. And if you put your heartbeat and your breath together, it's cranked up mindfulness kind of awareness thing. So I forgot what you said exactly, but that's what makes it really work, I think, is just that simplicity, and people can just attach to it. And I truly don't remember exactly what you were asking.
That's okay. I tend to ask really long, convoluted questions. I'm so sorry. Navneet is nodding her head. I'm sorry. That's on me. So let me ask it as simply as possible. Navneet, what can people do to protect themselves in unsafe environments?
Well, there you go. There you go. It's like, we don't want to be in unsafe environments, right? You know, obviously one thing you can do is leave the environment and not deal with it, but there are definitely ways being centered in yourself and not taking things personally, not taking things, you know, in a negative way. So by having your own personal energy, when we're talking about safety, it's not just the external environment, it's our own energy around it. And I'm going to keep going back to that center because that's what I do a lot. But when we're in our heart and we're in our heartbeat and feeling safe, it makes it easier to not really have boundaries. But it's funny. It's like you could almost think of it as a sense of magnetism or space around us, just because our hearts physically have a magnetic field, and a magnet both attracts and repels. So in a way, by having your own space around it, you can be in the world but not of the world kind of thing. You can be in a really active, that's another reason I use harmony a lot. I like the word harmony because, you know, like you can say peaceful, but people think of it this really calm, still thing. But you can have harmony where there's a lot of activity and a lot of movement, but still be balanced and still be respectful. So that's why I like to use harmony a lot. Does that get a little closer?
That's lovely. No, thank you. No, thank you for like taking the stage one more time to make sure that was clear. That was really wonderful and effective answer. So thank you. Navneet, as simple as I can ask the question, I won't ask it again. I think you heard it 5 times and now it's getting awkward.
Okay, don't worry. I have the question now. I wrote it down. So what can we do or what can people do to feel safe in an unsafe environment? I really do love everything Will has brought to the discussion about being able to connect with yourself. Grounding, going inward, meditating, that is a really, really big part of my own journey and how I stay connected going through some of these really, really unsafe environments in various ways. So one thing that really comes to mind is just a sense of self-awareness, being able to understand, okay, if I'm feeling unsafe, tuning in, like what is this feeling? How come I'm feeling this way? Why am I being triggered right now? What is the trigger? Who is the trigger? What does that represent? Like really just asking yourself a lot of these questions and understanding, am I really in any danger right now, right? Like, because sometimes, honestly, in certain environments, you are. Sometimes they are just really unsafe environments. And as Will touched on, sometimes you do leave those environments. But if we're not processing and understanding what the fear was, or whatever made you feel unsafe, then you may be repeating those patterns in the future. So it's really important to understand and have, I think, that level of self-awareness and the inquisitive within yourself is to know, what is it that's making me feel unsafe? Am I feeling safe enough to even have this conversation with someone? But sometimes outside of the workplace, can I reach out to anyone to process this? Is there anyone that, can support me through this, whether that is, a friend, a partner, a therapist, a counselor, a mentor? I think it's really important to know that you don't need to go through things by yourself. And too many times we really do feel that we're alone in something and that we need to just either, suck it up and move on and suppress how we're feeling, or we need to pretend like it's not happening. And I think either one of those is not really conducive to, creating more safety for yourself. So yeah, those are some of the biggest things that I think I would recommend. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. I think that all of those are key points. I do want to mention, so Valerie, again, who's joining us, but not necessarily on the AV side of things, but mentioned the biggest interventions that she uses are nature connections and yoga, singing, vocal tuning, dancing. So it sounds like a lot of kind of physical cleansing that really can help recenter someone. I'll say for me, what has been effective, because I think all of us have been in unsafe environments, but not been able to leave financially or for other reasons, right? And so you're sitting in this space that is uncomfortable and deeply harming to yourself. So one of the suggestions that I've done is I use TikTok, and other people use different kinds of social media to do a lot of social listening and to really gain perspective and not feel so alone. So when I'm on TikTok and I'm watching other creators who are experiencing X, Y, Z, who are, revealing their authentic emotions, it makes me know that there are people out there and there is space out there. It's just not in the workplace. And so I'm not going to find it here. I have to create it for myself somewhere else. Navneet, that's what you were mentioning. And so that's one of the ways that I feel like I've been able to maneuver some of those situations, is just by recognizing that I have to seek out places where I'm not alone and really engage there rather than in the workplace. And Rebecca, I'm going to hand it over to you. I know you have a few other questions for our panelists.
Do you mind if I share my answer to that question before we move
yeah.
to Rebecca? Thank you. I haven't worked in an office in a really long time, but I went through a period of time where I was unsafe in my own home. I'm sharing a home with my aging parents, and it was an unsafe environment for me, and I couldn't leave right away. It took quite some time to make that happen, and now I'm in a very safe place and very happy. But I want to teach everybody what I was doing to help myself to be able to go into my own home, because I had fear of going into my own home. And many of us are working from home right now, so this is really applicable to a lot of people. But even if you're not working from home, you can still do this. So nature. Valerie mentioned nature, Navneet mentioned nature, we all mentioned nature. So finding a spot in nature, okay, that could just be stepping outside of your front door. It could be when you arrive at a physical workplace, standing in the grass before walking into the building. And when you are standing in that place, you're going to use that grounding technique that Navneet mentioned, right? You're connecting to the ground. Don't need to take your shoes off if you don't want to. If you do, that's fine. I like to do my grounding by the water at the beach. I'm close. You can see the photos behind me. I live right near the water. I'm very lucky, but that might not be you. So it doesn't matter, just whatever is close to you. And as you're standing there, just pause and feel that connection to the ground. And imagine that you have roots coming from the bottom of your feet. And I want you to imagine that you are grounded energetically to the earth. And that those roots go so deep all the way down to the core of the earth, the magnetic core of the earth, that you are so strong and grounded. And then imagine that you have a beautiful white light that comes up from that core all the way up through the earth, gaining so much energy and protection as it comes up through the earth. And then it comes up through the bottom of your feet and through your body and through your heart, as Will said, right through your heart. You can feel that beautiful light coming through your heart. And then what the light does is it comes out of the top of your head and it creates a protective bubble around you. And it's a protective bubble of love and gratitude and kindness. And then as you go through your day, you are protected. You are energetically protected. And it makes it so much easier to walk back in that door or walk into the office, because you are protected energetically by this bubble of gratitude and love and light. And it change your experience of how you experience other people, because you've taken, and this can be done. I just did this in 3 minutes. And it can absolutely change your experience of walking into an unsafe environment. That's all I wanted to share on that.
Thank you so much for that wonderful one. Both a tool and a practice that we can, all explore, whether we're just stepping outside our home and, walking around the block or walking around. So I thank you for sharing that. I was just looking at the time, but one thing I want to also with individually, both mental health individually and in the workplaces, is I was looking at, as it's mental health awareness now on mental health, I was looking, their company was very, very interesting practice this month, or really this week, and it was of had like micro on how to mental well-being, and this is different for everyone and different for different 30 different tools or different resources and 30 different tips of this month to, as I was saying before, continue that to end the stigma around it. But mental health is so much and action we're taking each of the workplaces, and one of those is to look at the resources and is both with myself and Navneet was sharing that with awareness, that it comes down to that self-awareness, practice that, and with healthy habit and nutrition, exercise, all of that. But it also includes with setting boundaries and practicing self-care and giving ourselves a step back and allow ourselves to do, because when we look at burnout, and also something to mention here, mental health, is that's stress that is continued wages of 5 stages leading to burnout and really continuing on to chronic stress. So with just support that workplace and also to manage stress better, or manage employee stress.
And Rebecca, I think you were a little choppy there. At least for me, you were. And so I didn't hear that full context. But I think what you were trying to say is that it's time for us to wrap up this segment. So just really want to thank Julie and Valerie, who I know is kind of here in energy and spirit, but not necessarily on screen. Will and Navneet, thank you all so much for sharing your experience, your knowledge, your practices, so that we can gain better clarity for ourselves. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Yes. So Rebecca, that's it. That ends out this segment. I would love
to.
Okay, I think you're a little bit choppy, so I'm gonna wrap up for us. I just again want to thank our panelists. They were incredible. Follow all of these panelists on LinkedIn, find their websites, really go and begin building relationships with some of the experts that you've heard over the last 2 days, not just today, but yesterday. We have like 20 different experts who are incredible, who have shared vulnerability and who have shared authentically from their area of skill or experience. And so I just encourage everyone who's watching now or the replays, follow them, follow all of our sponsors. This program, this 2-day program that we put together, which is led by Sumana, is a heavy lift, and it was done so incredibly. And although I know that we have tech issues here and there because we're streaming and people from all over the world with all different kinds of connections and locations, it is just really incredible, and I think a really powerful union that we have gotten to experience together. And so Sumana, if you want to come on stage, I would love to have you. I'd love to personally thank you for the leadership that you've shown over 9 months worth of work, pulling this together, making it happen, bringing the energy, making it incredible. Just seeing your face lifts my energy to like level 11. So I just really want to thank our sponsors, thank our experts, thank our team, and thank you, Sumana, and let you close out this 2-day summit.
Okay, first things first, can you hear me?
Yes, oh my gosh, we can.
Everybody take a deep breath. Rebecca O'Brien was such an incredible moderator. Thank you, Rebecca O'Brien. Your internet was a little bit choppy, but that's okay. We heard your passion. We heard your investment in mental health, and we just loved having you on stage. All the other moderators, thank you so much. I just want to thank you, Jenn Hensel, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. Jenn, you've been on stage for a while, kind of doing a lot of this heavy lifting with the tech stuff. You know, I was just telling Petra, who's sitting here, I said, it's been great. This was our little minor ride. I told you in the beginning of the summit, it's going to be a little bit of a bumpy ride. This is a ride. Yep. If you like going on rides, so this is the place to be. We're all about that. I just want to take a few moments and do a little bit of a recap of what was done, what was said, our intention with the Workplace Wellness Summit, 2 days, 2.5 hours. Y'all can still go over to the Toucan space and meet with the speakers and the moderators and the panelists who are going to be there. I think some of the ones from day one will also be there. I do want to thank the sponsors. We had that list up there already. So all the sponsors, thank you so much. Ella Pitch, Jenn Hensel is also a sponsor. So my personal thank you to you, Jenn Hensel, and your company, Ella Pitch, for sponsoring this event. So that's a huge thanks to the moderators. I do want to thank the speakers, all of you. There's so many. I don't even want to list all of your names. You have been incredible with all the ups and downs, especially yesterday, the bumpy road that we had. If anyone's watching, Restream has reached out to me in my LinkedIn DM. They even left a comment because I did tell them like, hey, Restream, what's up, what's going on? So we're gonna sort that out and find better solutions for the next summit, which I think will be a hybrid event. I think we'll do an in-person and a virtual event together. So keep an eye out for that one. I wanna thank the Workplace Wellness Committee. I'm gonna tell you these individuals, Jenn Hensel, Rebecca O'Brien, Nicole North, Marion Spears Karr, Meredith Grandai, and Jared Allmond. You are my team. You are my people. David Spinner and Michel, Thomson and Simone Tai, you came up and asked me if I needed help. And I said, I need help. And for some of you, you didn't even ask me if I needed help. I just said, can you help me? And you said yes right away. So thank you for all of your hard work over the last couple of days and all the weeks and months prior to, and really just supporting the mission, the vision. We wanted to do this whole thing, the summit, not just as a one-time thing. From the very beginning, this summit was intended to be a regular event. We just didn't expect it to happen so fast in 9 months. So here we are. I also want to just do a quick little recap here and tell you a little bit about the summary of what happened over the last couple of days. So you can watch all the videos on YouTube. So what I did last night, I went home and I have categorized all the videos on YouTube. We do have Joanna's segment 1, we have Vinay's segment 2, and then segment 3 has all the other speakers listed from yesterday. So you can go watch all of them. Everything is timestamped. So if you don't want to listen to the introductions and things like that, just head over to the timestamp and watch all the speakers summary, and they're there. Today's event is also going to be on YouTube. I'll do the same thing. I'll timestamp everything so you can have that information. So that's there for you. The symbiotic relationship, I think Hannah Austin mentioned that because a few days ago I posted something on LinkedIn about leadership and diversity, workplace wellness and equity, mental health and belonging, as well as culture and inclusion, having this amazing symbiotic relationship. So that, I think, has been displayed through all of the conversations that we've had today. Let me start with leadership and diversity first, because I've taken some notes here, which, by the way, I have to thank Petra Winner, who is the winner isn't her name. She's a winner. She's amazing. She's been helping me out. I randomly met her on LinkedIn. She is an ICU nurse, and she's been sort of helping support me. So even just being here by my side, bringing that candle today, I mean, all of the things, Petra, thank you so much. I know you're sitting right here, but I'm gonna look right there into your eyes and tell you that I really, really do appreciate you, Petra. So learning and develop leadership and diversity, we learned about the importance of self-awareness. We learned about how do we flex that EQ muscle. We learned from Nicole North about responsive leadership. We learned from Marion Karr about gratitude and how we can focus that into our conversations, and really just building a community with confidence. So that leadership panel brought a lot to the table. Working parents, if you have any questions, listen to Johannan's conversation about that. Vinay brought a lot to the table as well. So that was fantastic. And the leadership panel today, oh my goodness, y'all just brought it home. You know, I think it was just an incredible discussion about how leadership and diversity fit together, not just the personal component of it, but also the relationship management, the generational diversity, and all the other components. Second, my favorite, workplace wellness and equity. We had a discussion, and I think this was probably the top comment that I've seen on LinkedIn right now, which came from Nausheen, and the comment was life harmony. Life harmony was the comment that's been getting a bunch of likes. So thank you, Nausheen, for teaching us about that. We talked about equitable leadership. We spoke a little bit about deciding how do we put people coming to work versus work going to people. That was an important sort of distinction that we needed to remember. And we also talked about budgeting and allocating our wellness perks and our wellness dollars and reimagining what wellness actually means in today's work and space, and giving resources to our employees so they feel comfortable having these conversations. Today's panel on workplace wellness and equity with Anna and Joshua and Grant, incredible discussion. So go check that out, watch the replay, take notes, learn actively, and listen and pay attention to everything that they've said. The third component was culture and inclusion. Wow, what a panel. First of all, Jared Allmond and David Spinner were like incredible moderators. The panel was incredible today. The speakers we had yesterday were just incredible. That what I'm learning is like we really did want to talk a little bit about employee resource groups, the different components of it. How can we be an ally? How can we really support mentorship in our workplace? And the one thing that I remember from today's conversation was, I think it came from Anna, and she said, ask the difficult questions. Let's do that. Let's ask those difficult questions. Let's put leaders accountable for what is it that they're doing, and let's hold ourselves accountable as well. Again, go watch that replay on YouTube. Go watch the replay again. That panel discussion was lit. Vivian, Acquah was there. I mean, every single thing that was dropped by all of the speakers. And I know Jared and David went above and beyond to connect with all the moderators, to connect with all the speakers for the leadership, for the culture and inclusion section. So thanks to you once again from the bottom of my heart. Last but not the least, the most important conversation about mental health and belonging. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And there are so many pieces in our mental health conversation that we really need to maybe sit back and think for ourselves and reflect. I know I'm going to be doing a ton of reflecting over the next couple of days, couple of weeks, couple of months about everything that I've been through hosting the summit, the ups and downs of that emotional awareness and the anxiety that can kick in, and the resiliency training that I already have had from being burnt out once before, and how can I utilize those skills now to continue to be a better leader, because there are chances for us to be better every single day. We did talk about the components of using our wellness and well-being as a source of strength. Whoever said that, I can't remember who said it, but whoever said that, I think as a community, we can agree to that. So huge round of applause. Give me your emoji. Tell me what you feel about that. Tell me what you feel about all the other discussions that we've had. Leave your one-word answer. Tell me your one learning from today. There's been so much that we've learned, but our brain isn't going to remember all of it. Our brain's probably going to remember one or two things. So if you can, if you're still watching, if you can put in the comment one thing that you have learned over the last 2 days from our committee, from our panel members, from the chat, because the chat is such a great place for us to connect with and also learn. Put that in the chat. And I urge you to continue to have a conversation. Remember all the wellness shots that I gave you, and please tag me if you made a friend today If you network with somebody amazing today, put it in the chat, tag me, tag any of our moderators, and let us know who that person was. How have they lifted you up, and how are they helping you overcome some of your challenges in any of the 4 components that we've discussed. This symbiotic relationship, this is going to continue. We're not done yet, you guys. This is just the beginning. There is a lot more to learn. There's a lot more people I want to bring to the table. I already have started recruiting speakers from just discussions on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has been fantastic. So if you want to be a speaker for the next summit, or if you know somebody who wants to be a speaker at the next summit, or if you have an idea, if you want to be an ambassador, if you want to help be part of the committee, let me know. Let any of the moderators know. We could use an extra pair of hands. I've learned that today. Having some extra support is so important. Even just today, I realized that having a second manager on the Restream page was super important. So we brought Jenn Hensel to kind of manage that. So I could sit down, have my Nutella sandwich and a sip of water and relax for a little bit and absorb my material. So that's all I want to say. Leave your one-word comment. Thank you so, so much for your time, for your commitment, and just for your patience. You have been an incredible audience. Speakers, you guys have been incredible. You're going to get a lot of thank yous from me and lots of virtual hugs to all of you. And I look forward to seeing you next year. I'm not sure what channel, but we will be back next year. And thank you so much. I am done speaking for now, and we will see you next year. Bye for now.